Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 672. Welcome in. Today's an interesting one. I'm kind of going off script. Initially, we were going to do something different, and I have now restructured it. I was going to do a basic episode and have a brief moment with my friend Austin. Well, I recorded the hit for that part of the show, and we just talked for like a long time. And I'm like, you know what? This is a good standalone episode. And so what I'm going to do you people on Patreon, I was going to read Patreon questions on today's show. We're not going to do that. I'm actually going to record a special episode Saturday night after college football, after some baseball stuff. It's going to be a really interesting, like jam-packed weekend of sports. And so I think it's responsible to record an episode on Saturday night about LSU, Ole Miss, about the Red River Showdown, about Oregon and Ohio State, about two of the MLB games happening this weekend that are really interesting. It'll be like I don't know how long it's going to be. I'm going to talk about those 5 things, and then I'm going to talk about answer some Patreon questions. So to make up for this being kind of a unique, weird Thursday night episode, I'm going to record a special episode Saturday night with Patreon questions, with some current events. And then again, obviously I'll record Monday night with Nathan as we normally do. But without further ado, today's episode is a special one with my good friend Austin. We talk about the Dallas Cowboys. We talk about baseball. It's kind of a different episode. It's just 2 friends catching up about things we care about. I hope you enjoy. And I will see you guys next on Saturday. But without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Austin. Joining me now is my good friend, Austin. Austin, how are you doing, man?
I'm well, man. How are you?
I'm doing really good. It's good to have you. It's been way too long.
Yeah, I'm glad. We did this. The NHL season 2024-2025 started technically 2 days ago. And the first time I ever appeared on the show was an NHL postseason. So this is like my calendar for appearances on this show, I feel like.
It's your window of time. Do you have a favorite NHL team? I don't know if you do.
The Vancouver Canucks, brother.
The closest team to you. Is that why you picked them?
Not anymore, but...
oh, yeah, true.
It's not anymore. No, I went to... So, just derailing instantly. I didn't go to outdoor school. Most kids did. I didn't. The week of outdoor school, I went to Vancouver, BC. And this was right at the time when the Canucks were really good. They were making a deep postseason run. What I wouldn't know at the time would be the last deep postseason run they made in a long, long time, as soon as I became a fan. But at the time, they were in the midst of a deep postseason run, and the way the city rallied was such an inspiring thing. They were playing the games on a big screen on the side of the convention center, and all the light posts in the downtown area had speakers that were playing the games. You couldn't be in downtown Vancouver and escape what was happening. And it was so electric, and I was instantly in. And from then on, it's been mostly heartbreak, but had a great year last year. So, we're on the up and up.
I would say I have great appreciation for the passion for hockey in Canada. It's kind of special. You have to acknowledge, if you're in the sports world at all, the local support of a hockey team in Canada is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and it's the thing here with the way the media treats the Jets, right? It's the Yankees, the New York media, and in a lot of ways that's akin to how especially Vancouver and Toronto, the 2 big city, real big city Canadian teams, it can be a grind to be a player, I'm sure. Wouldn't know. It can also be a grind to be a fan because of the constant attention. Not unlike another team that I like that we're going to talk about today, I think. But yeah, no, I'm with you. It's the passion is completely unrivaled, I think.
Let's jump right into that. I got 4 notes in front of me, things I want to hit on today. Yep. Let's start with the Dallas Cowboys. You are a massive Dallas Cowboys fan, which first of all, I don't understand how one grows up in Portland, Oregon, and becomes a Dallas Cowboys fan, other than it must be through your dad.
I was kind of born into it. Yeah, I was. Yeah,
I'm so sorry. That's brutal.
And he was born into it. So it's frankly, it's child abuse. Honestly, we're 4 generations into Cowboy fandom, and I think I've had it the worst of any of them. I know I have actually. So, yeah.
I indirectly quoted you on the show the other day. I said, what did you say? Watching Dallas is actually a chore. I talked about that after their primetime game the other day.
Yep.
Look, man, what do you make of their season so far, the Dallas Cowboys? I've been really low on them. I predicted they would go 6-11 this year. And I got a lot of anger and pushback and frustration from Cowboys fans. And I'm like, look, that's what I see. And I still see that from their team, especially the rest of the year, how tough their schedule is.
The schedule's brutal. I don't
Tell
think
me
they'll go
about
6
your
and 11.
thoughts.
I think
Yeah,
6 and 11. I think 6 and 11 is more bearish. I'm going to say this. I would love it if they went 6 and 11. I would love that because I think the season ends up the same. The draft picks higher, and if you'd asked me a month ago, I'd have said then they're not bringing back McCarthy. I think they're not going to anyway.
Yeah.
So that is kind of a moot point. But I don't see a difference if this team goes 11-6 or 6-11. I don't see it ending any different. So let's pick in the top 12 or whatever. Might as well. At this point.
Well, I gotta say,
go ahead,
if I may, real quick.
Yeah, please.
From the outside, I find Dallas really frustrating because, you look at Washington in their own division, who's got all this young energy,
Dan
literally
Quinn.
an old, Dan Quinn, the former Cowboys defensive coordinator. There's this young energy. They look rejuvenated. They got this awesome quarterback who's just, man,
lighting it
say
up.
what you want about Jay Daniels. He's lighting it up. He looks like a great leader that they need.
He does.
And he's also not crippling the team with his contract. And they've got a GM making really good moves. And you look at Dallas, to me, the clear, obvious problem, you got the highest paid quarterback in football. That makes no sense to me.
Temporarily.
Dak is not bad. I want to make that very clear. He's a really solid quarterback. We had a conversation on the show the other day. I think Dak in Cleveland would be really interesting. I think he would fit that offense really well and be a good leader they need. I have no problem with Dak. My problem is paying Dak the highest salary for a quarterback in NFL history.
But that's temporary, right? By halfway through that deal, he's going to be 8th or something. It's like what Lamar was, and so this happens a lot.
Yeah, he'll get leap. Are you saying because he'll get leapfrog?
Because other guys will sign, and the quarterback money is just going to keep going up. So I mean, there's a world I don't know. Maybe I sound crazy. There's a world Purdy gets paid more. If the Niners win the Super Bowl this year, Purdy eclipses that in 9 months. So
yeah, that's fair. Well, you're paying Mahomes $45 million a year, and it's
true.
The value is crazy. Or Baker Mayfield's contract at 33. And we're talking average annual value, making 33 a year. It's I would way rather pay Baker that than Dak the $60 million a year. And what I was going to say is, to me, the obvious problem is Jerry Jones, the decision maker, handing out the contracts, picking the players. It's this guy's got to get out of his own way and hire a football guy to run football operations.
Yeah, first of all, yes. Just broadly, yes, that is the answer. As far as Dak and the contract goes, it's obviously a scary number for somebody that has won very few postseason games, has never made it past the second round of the postseason, got embarrassed by the upstart Packers in the playoffs last year. The thing is that I've been long critical, even back to his rookie year when Dallas fans loved Dak and coming off the end of Romo. I've always kind of been critical of Dak. I never thought he was that awesome. That said, I don't think you can pin a lot of this on him or especially not the contract yet, because it hasn't kicked in yet, at least to the extent that it will. The question is you bring up Baker, and I think that's a good point. Baker's at 33 AAV. Do you trust Jerry Jones to fill the holes in that of the money that you save, hypothetically going from Dak to Baker? Yes, you have this kind of war chest of saved money, and there's no evidence that's been given to us in the past 20 years at this point that Jerry will do anything with that. So at least Dak, for whatever he is, he's a bottom end of the top 10 in terms of quarterbacks in this league, I would think. We've seen several teams go through the quarterback carousel and how tumultuous that is. So for as much as I'm not completely enamored with Dak, and as much as I don't love the number, I don't know what the alternative is.
I do.
Point. What do you think?
I think if they could restart at quarterback with a rookie contract, it would be a home run. So someone, for example, Cameron Ward's not going to happen for them. They're not going to have the number one pick. They're not bad enough. But if they could find a way to trade Dak and a first-round pick to get Cameron Ward's contract, it's going to be in the ballpark of $40, $50 million for 4 or 5 years.
So I don't disagree with that thought process, but I think if you're doing that, you tear the whole thing down. I think that I do you think that Cameron Ward is going to be in a position just while he's cheap to be a good enough player to to do this with,
Yes.
what at that point will be an older CeeDee Lamb, you know, a Parsons deal that will be gigantic at that point. And he's been, I'm not gonna lie, a little disappointing this year. Like I feel like if you're gonna tear it down, then tear it down. Like I'm fine with that if that's what we're doing, but like we got to commit. I think you got to go one way or the other. To me,
Yeah. Well, they've already committed. That's the problem. They've already committed to Dak. That's
yeah.
it. And Dak has to be what Kirk Cousins is to Atlanta, the veteran who rallies the troops and makes big plays in the fourth quarter. The problem is that hasn't happened. Now, let's philosophically talk about, I think the way you build a football team now is you get a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, and you got a 4 or 5 year period to overpay other positions and build around that kid.
That's what the Niners are doing right now.
Yeah,
it's what the Niners are doing. It's what Washington should lean even further into doing at this point.
Yeah. I just now here's the thing: the die is cast. They're stuck with Dak. We can't go back. So it's maybe not worth having the conversation what I would have done differently. But now, how do they manage what they've got and turn it into a winning football team? I don't think they do. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are going to win a Super Bowl in the next 10 years. Probably not again in Jerry Jones' lifetime, given the situation he's created in Dallas. I want to hear from you. First of all, I just want to hear the emotional response to the Dallas Cowboys season, where they're at so far. You were started to get into it, and I actually cut you off. I apologize. Just tell me how you feel about the Cowboys right now.
Should you start the national anthem or something? I don't know. I feel like I'm just gonna go. I feel like I need a musical cue. It's pitiful, man. It's the text I sent to you. It's a chore. It's exhausting. I'm one of my very best friends, someone you met at my wedding, is a lifelong Patriots fan, and even now that they're bad, he's not the kind of guy he's going to be with them, and he's been a lifelong guy. And I told him at the start of the season, I said, you're going to have more fun watching your team than I am mine. And the Pats were supposed to win 4 games or whatever, but they got a new toy. They got a shiny new toy. They got Drake May. They got Jalen Polk. They've got things that are fun and interesting, and they kind of got a new look. They got guys on defense that are young and exciting. He is going to have more fun watching his 4-13, 5-12 team than I am watching my, I guess if we're asking you 6-11 team, I think probably more closer to 8 or 9 and whatever team.
Sure.
It's exhausting. It is a complete. It is an effort that only the most self-pitying masochist should undertake. I don't. It sucks, man. It sucks. It's so demoralizing because the thing is again, this is a thing that's years long now. The regular season has stopped mattering. And usually when you hear somebody say that, it's a Patriots fan who's don't care, we win 13 games a year, we win the Super Bowl. Or a Chiefs fan now, it's don't care, we win 10 to 13 games, win the Super Bowl. The regular season doesn't matter for us because you're going to win double-digit games because the talent is good enough. You've got Dak Prescott, you've got CeeDee Lamb, you've got guys. You're going to out-talent enough teams to scrape to 10 to 12 wins. And none of it's going to matter because it never has mattered. Because short of beating the final corpse of Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, they can't win playoff games. So what do we do this 4-month exercise in futility for, only to know that we're not going anywhere? We're not going anywhere. So and like I said, the die's been cast. So this idea of tear it down, we're past that. But I just want to feel like there's progress. I want to feel like I would rather go 7-10 or 8-9. Or 5-12, and it's exciting, and it feels like we're building, and because it feels like we could not be more stagnant. And I don't know where to go. Again, it's only going to get more expensive to have Dak Prescott. You've got a Micah Parsons contract coming down. The team's already thin. The run defense sucks. The secondary is perpetually hurt. There's no run game to speak of. The offensive line is slowly being rebuilt, and it looks like it's going to be okay. It hasn't been awesome so far, but a lot of young guys, so I'm holding out hope. I don't know where you go at this point, where we are right now on October 10th, with contracts the way they are and things have been signed the way they are, and we are at the avenue we're at, a 3-2 team that is wholly sorrowful to watch. I don't know where to go from here. I'm going to keep watching because I hate myself. I don't know where to go from here.
I'm really disappointed. There was a missed opportunity. Jim Harbaugh was out there to be had, and they didn't pursue him. And I think part of that's my assumption there is Jerry Jones' unwillingness to give up control. He wants a coach he can manage, and I think Jim would want to do things his way a little more than Jerry would like. But can you imagine Jim Harbaugh coaching this football team? How exciting that would have been. And I think the place we have to go from here now is who's the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
You want
Because
to hear my power rankings for who I want in no order?
please, yes.
So this is in no order, and this is not comprehensive. Like someone's going to be in the comments, be like, "Why didn't you say this guy?" I don't know. The three guys off the dome that I think would be most interesting to be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Number one is anybody but Mike McCarthy. That's not true, actually, but I do feel that way. No, in no order. I think it would be really fun, and it would become a sideshow, and that's what Dallas is. I think Belichick would be really fun. Like, I think it would be cool to be a fan of a team that's coached by Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I think we have some really exciting special teams players in Kevontae Turpin and Brandon Aubrey that Bill would unlock in like really fun ways. Because he's like a nerd about that stuff. Number two is Ben Johnson for obvious reasons. He's what he's put together offensively in Detroit is a complete marvel. Watching them is some of the most fun. Go ahead.
And well, his offense would fit Dak really well. Jared Goff and Dak have similar skill sets, and the way they use play action, the way they run the football, like that's what Dallas needs to be, is a team that uses heavy play action, runs the football, bit of creativity with motions. I think you're right in that Ben Johnson system would fit Dak and the personnel, and then the personnel they would be required to bring into Dallas would really be great running Ben Johnson.
It's not the most perfect fit ever in terms of like this is exactly the same, but you look at Dallas's offense, you look at Detroit's offense, there's a ton of similarities there. You have a quarterback that's kind of in that middle tier. You have a real true blue elite number one wide receiver who can do a lot of different fun things. You've got kind of a committee running back situation where you've got someone that's a little more fleet of foot, a little more of a pass catcher, and someone who's a little more of a bruiser. You've got a talented tight end. You've got a lid lifter, number two receiver type guy. Whether you want to call that Jalen Tolbert or you want to call that the corpse of Brandon Cooks. It's not the Lions personnel group is better, but I think Dallas is a facsimile of that I think someone like Ben Johnson could really improve from a philosophical standpoint.
Well, and two rookie running backs, you draft a guy in the second round and maybe the fifth round next year, could fill the need at running back, I think, in my opinion, in Dallas pretty clearly.
That's like Bill's kind of like my memey jokey, like this would be fun answer, but like I would actually like I would be excited to tune in, which is further along than I am now. But if you
Can I say something, by the way, I'm sorry.
Please, yeah.
I think I noticed about the Cowboys, and you said this, but there's a huge parallel between the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers, actually. They're perpetually never bad enough to fully rebuild, but never good enough to win a Super Bowl. They just hit their head against the ceiling every year. Like, and they just never can get farther.
People often cite Tomlin's never gone under 500. It's like nobody's just at 500 every year. Like like that the streak continues, and that news, that tweet always comes out like week 16 when they're about to miss the playoffs or they're going to get in the last wild card spot and then get trounced. So it's like, okay, cool. I don't see that as like this awesome thing that people do. Like it's good, it's cool, and he does have a Super Bowl, so that's great. Like recently, so whatever. But yeah. So I mean, realistically, yeah. Like Jerry, like if you're going to do anything good, please throw the most gigantic bag at Ben Johnson and let a real person run this team. And third. I kind of like Robert Saleh, man. I kind of like Robert Saleh. Like, I
love that idea. I had not considered that at all, actually.
I love Robert Saleh. I think he's been, and this is like my own kind of personal, thing, whatever. I think he's gotten railroaded. I think that's beyond like arguing against at this point. He's gotten completely railroaded by Jets ownership, by Aaron Rodgers, and by Nathaniel Hackett at this point, and that's why he's out of the building. I think he's an excellent defensive-minded coach, which I know you think most teams shouldn't be looking to hire as their head coach. Now you're kind of more of the idea that teams should be hiring offensive-minded coaches as their head coaches, and I agree with you. I just love Saleh, man. I think he's great, and he could improve this defense in ways that the personnel would dictate they should be, and they're not right now. And we lose Dan Quinn, who is doing miracles in the Capitol right now. And big shoes to step into for old man Zimmer. It's not going well. It's not going well. The run defense is bad. His boy Eric Kendrick, not good. Go ahead.
I don't like hiring defensive head coaches with rookie quarterbacks specifically, right? I think Matt Eberflus in Chicago is the wrong head coach to be working with Caleb Williams. If you're going to bring in Caleb Williams to be a rookie quarterback, you should hire an offensive head coach to work with him. I think D'Amico Ryans in Houston is the rare example, or even Dan Quinn, but they've got a really great offensive coordinator with Cliff Kingsbury or Bobby Slowick in Houston, Cliff Kingsbury in Washington, doing a great job bringing along a rookie quarterback. But it's very rare
Mm-hmm.
to see a defensive head coach works so well with a rookie quarterback. Ironically, the last two rookie quarterbacks that do their best had defensive head coaches. To me, they're outliers than the norm. You want someone like Sean Payton working with Bo Nix to bring them along at a proper speed. However, Dallas doesn't have a rookie quarterback. Dallas is a veteran quarterback who is reliable, you can trust. Dak in Dallas would be Robert Saleh's best quarterback he's had his entire time as a head coach if he got hired. I had not even considered that possibility, and it's a compelling thought. Now, who does he hire to be his play caller? Because, frankly, hiring an offensive coordinator consistently has been his problem. He's never had a great coordinator. Now, was that him or is that Joe Douglas, the general manager, hiring the offensive coordinator? There's a lot to be said there, but I think it's criminal. We never saw Robert Saleh with a good quarterback and a good offense because, man, the defense was crushing it for years. That was never the problem. His side of the football. And I think let's talk about Dallas, put a tidy bow on it. Then let's swing back. I'd actually like to talk about Robert Saleh because I covered it on Tuesday, but it's more news is broken in that story. So let's add that to the list of things to talk about after the Dallas Cowboys conversation because I think we should touch Robert Saleh. But I want to say Robert Saleh, because of Dak specifically, fits actually fairly well in Dallas.
I think any of those three names just mentioned, I would be ecstatic to have seen Dallas hire, which is why it certainly won't happen. Like we're gonna I can't even imagine what bag of nothing's gonna surprise me when Jerry he doesn't even walk to a podium. He floats he's the Grim Reaper to the podium, and he's like, we're so excited to announce the hiring of Herm Edwards or something, and it's like it's going to be something tragic. It's Rex Ryan. Yeah, it's going to be it's going to. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about how angry I'm going to be when he announces the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys because it's not going to be the right one. If it's any of those three, I'm ecstatic.
Yeah,
but it's not going to be.
Why? I'm really curious. So I was once a Seattle Mariners fan. You live in the Seattle area.
I do.
And I just saw a stat, by the way, they allowed the fewest runs in baseball and didn't make the playoffs. And it's I just look at them. I'm like, I'm so glad I left the Mariners behind in my past. I've had a couple organizations I've left working with. And it's sometimes you look back and you're like, I'm so glad I'm not a part of that shit show. And I feel the same about the Mariners. I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not a fan of them. And I was a fan. I emotionally still react when I see their box scores. I'm like, yes or no. I admit I'm emotionally connected to Seattle. But I was like, I'm in a toxic relationship with this organization. It broke me when they traded Adam Jones actually to the Orioles for Eric Bedard, the pitcher. And I knew at 13 years old, that's a terrible decision. I can't support this team anymore. I really remember however old I was, whatever it was what broke me. And I said, I'm not emotionally going to give any more energy to this franchise. And I walked away. Why are you still a Cowboys fan? Is it just because you can't separate? It's been so long. It's so ingrained in you. You got Stockholm syndrome and you'll just never emotionally be able to disconnect from the team. What keeps you rooting for the Dallas Cowboys?
Part of it is that it's comfy. It's it's Stockholm, like you said, it's Stockholm syndrome is part of it. People are going to think I'm joking. I'm genuinely not. That you're I'm very passionate about sports and I'm very passionate about my team. So when I say this, I mean this completely genuinely. I think part of it is it's routine now. It's ever since I was cognizant, it's this is the team that I've rooted for. I don't have to worry about anything else. I'm familiar with the mediocrity, and also I know, I'm 27 years old. I hopefully have a lot of life left, and in that long life that I hope to live, it's a decent chance the Cowboys win one time. It's not going to be a Cubs situation, you'd think, where they just don't win. Yeah. And when that day comes, I know that even if I tell myself I've disavowed them and I hate them, I'm not a fan anymore, and I'm a fan of someone else. I think my second team I'd pick would be Buffalo if I had to pick a new team. But if 55-year-old me is a Buffalo fan, and I've got Josh Allen's whole face tattooed on my back, and the Cowboys are hoisting the Lombardi, I should say. That twinge in me is going to be like, man, wish I got to be happy about this.
Well, I gotta say, some of the payoff of them winning a Super Bowl, part of the joy would be the reality that you watch them for years and years of suffering, right? The suffering leads to
Can't
ultimately a
have
great
sun without
payoff.
rain. Can't have sun without rain. Like that's, but it hurts, man. Like a lot of a lot of my best friends, people you've met, and people I'm in fantasy leagues with, all that. The predominant makeup of my close friend group are Eagles, Seahawks, Patriots, Chiefs, and Giants fans. What do all those teams have in common? They've won multiple times recently, except for Philly, I guess. Like they've all won in the last 2 decades.
Yeah. In our lifetime.
In our lifetime, I've gotten to watch all of my best friends have the success and have the joy of watching their teams, in most cases multiple times, win the whole thing. And I'm still here waiting. I'm still here
Uh,
waiting.
when it comes to Dallas, so I think the next coach is a crucial decision. They're locked into Dak Prescott. We both agree, hey, they should probably. I'd love to see them hire a general manager. I don't think it's going to happen in our
Well, it's
lifetime.
not going to happen.
Um, am I forgetting anything? I mean, you look at their season. The Dallas Cowboys are 3-2. It's not like it's been an ugly 3-2. But like I want to say, you look at I don't know. The 49ers are 3-3. The Bengals are 1-4. Like the Ravens are also 3-2. The Bills are 3-2. Like there are 3-2 is the Falcons are 3-2. Like you're one of the better teams of football when it comes to record wise. So it's not like we act like the sky is falling, but it's because, like you said earlier, the regular season doesn't matter. They're gonna float through the regular season. I said 6-11. I'm actually gonna back off that. We're probably looking at more like 8-9. They're an 8, 9, 10 win team, something like that. They're not as bad as I thought they were going to be, honestly, up front on the offensive line. But they're
It's
they're a
young, but it's
borderline
improving.
they're a borderline playoff team. If they make the playoffs, though, they're not a Super Bowl contender at
No,
all.
no.
So that's why 3-2 still feels like a frustrating start, because you're like, well, they're just not going to go anywhere with this team. I look at the rest of their schedule. Detroit, 49ers, Atlanta, Philly, Houston, Washington. Those next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games are effing brutal. I think 6 games from now, 3-2 is more like, I don't know, 3-8, 4-7. So it's going to be ugly. I mean,
I think they'll win 2 of them,
you think, yeah, but even so, you're looking at what?
which is not good. No, it's not good news. I think that out of that stretch, I think they win 2 of them. I think you're looking at what would that be, 5 and uh
5-6,
5 and 6, yeah.
and then at that point, it's bad. And then from
That's
there,
what
you
we're
play
doing
the
here.
Giants, Cincinnati, Carolina, Tampa, Philly again, and Washington. So I think you win
You're
2
looking at
more of those games. You're looking at not a winning record, right? You're looking at like a 7-10, 8-9 season. I think that's about right for the Dallas Cowboys. I just think looking ahead to who they're going to play, how things play out, assuming other teams don't get banged up, we're probably looking at 8-win Dallas Cowboys team. I don't know where to go with this conversation. I kind of want to put a bow on this conversation about Dallas Cowboys, but is there anything we're missing we should talk about? Because I look ahead, it's not pretty.
No, you made the point. Like you made the point. They're 3-2. They're not by record. They're not bad, but they're 20th in offensive DVOA. They're 23rd in defensive DVOA. This is a team that probably should be 2-3 instead of 3-2. You could maybe even make a case for 1-4, although I probably wouldn't make it. It's the point we've been making the entire time. They're just good enough to win 7 to 9 games and to not really lock yourself into a premium draft position, while knowing that you're probably not going to make the playoffs. And if you do, it's in it's ceremonious at best, or ceremonial at best to just get beat. Like Baltimore's 3-2, right? Baltimore's offense is incredible. Baltimore's the best offense in the NFL this year. Their defense has not been awesome every snap, and some of that's come at some untimely moments, and they've got 2 losses. That's a team that probably should be closer to 4-1. That you could make the argument it should be 5-0. I mean, that said, one of those 2 Cowboys losses was a huge come from behind, not loss, but very nearly was not loss to the same Ravens team. I don't know what to make of it, but I know that it's not good. I know this is closer to a middle of the pack median type team than anything else. And I think that is like kiss of death. So I don't know.
It's a very unimpressive 3-2. It's a
It
win
is.
for Cleveland, the Giants, and Pittsburgh, whose offense is gimpy. And I think 3-2 with hope, like the Ravens have, is very different than 3-2 against some bad
Who
teams.
are the 3-2 teams? Baltimore, they're better, right? We know that. Buffalo, they're better. Seattle, they're. I guess they're 3-3. They're 3-3 now, right? So I mean,
Tampa 3-2. I think Falcons and Tampa are better than
Green Bay is 3-2. They're better.
Yeah.
Chicago's
3-2, and that's a coin flip.
That's a coin flip.
Better
Denver's
defense.
3-2. I like Dallas more than Denver, even though Denver's defense is incredible this year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 3-2 teams, and Dallas is not better than a lot of them. Like they're just not. So I don't know. Like I said, I said this before. I can do 6 hours on this. Like it doesn't stop. And you're right. The next coaching decision is going to be. It's the most important decision, probably after the choice to sign Dak, that this franchise will make for the rest of the decade. I think like this is going to set you on a path, and if they get it right, I have no confidence they do, but if they do, you'd like to think there's an avenue that this turns around in the coming years. And if they don't, it's only going to get more mediocre. It's only going to get more painful. If it can, I don't know if it can. I think we're in the numb stage now.
Well, the ugly truth about the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones is 81 years old. He's going to live probably to 100 roughly, right? Now,
it's going to do 100,000.
After 90, though, how much is he going to be there with it? Like, how much is he going to be in control? I don't know. We have probably in the ballpark of 10 years left of Jerry Jones really having total control, running things the way he does. So this hire is the last opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys, I think, in Jerry Jones' lifetime to do something right, turn the ship around, and under Jerry Jones' tutelage, build towards a Super Bowl. So it's the most critical hire left in the Jerry Jones era running the Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion. I want to say this too. We just went about 30 minutes on the Dallas Cowboys. Here's why we do that. The Packers, the Steelers, and the Cowboys are the three biggest brands and biggest fan bases in football. Mm-hmm. I think it's worth a conversation. I think a lot of the media, you hear people, you always talk about the Cowboys. There's a reason why every show in the world does a Cowboy segment basically weekly. It's because their fan base is massive and engaged. But the engagement you get by talking about the Cowboys does warrant the conversation.
I know why it happens. I know why it happens. God, that's another conversation we could have. I know why it happens, but I hate opening my ESPN app to check baseball scores and seeing like another Stephen A. on why Dak Prescott,
blah blah blah,
beats homeless people or something. Like I don't like it's ridiculous. Like I it is exhausting. Like I said, I just wish I could just be a Bills fan. Like
yeah.
Do we know? And we're going into more than 30 minutes. Do we know that Jerry Jones cares about another ring before he dies? He's got 3 of them.
He has to. I mean, it has to. If you put yourself in his shoes, what's the motivation? You're a billionaire. Are you trying to make more money? Are you trying to?
And you're trying to. I'm not. I wouldn't. I think he cares more about brand valuation and being the America's team and being on ESPN and being the man and drafting from his mega yacht. I don't think it's like strictly like image, like that seems to water it down more. I think that he just kind of likes the fact, like he's just content with like we're the Dallas Cowboys.
It's a vanity project, though. It's about him and
it's his. Like he gets he's the guy. He's the owner of all owners. Like this is his show.
See, I think though he does want to win. Here's why he wants to win. You want to be good at what you do. You want to be the guy drafting from your yacht, making all the decisions, and winning a Super Bowl. I mean, this is the
fundamental difference between you and Jerry Jones. Is that
you won this Super Bowl.
The fundamental difference between you and Jerry Jones is that you see being good as a football owner as winning titles, and he sees being good as a football owner as expanding the brand and making money. That's what he sees as being a good owner.
Yeah, but I just here's what you're missing, though. I think personally, he wants to look around at the other 31 owners and go, I got you. I beat you all, and not just financially. My team just won the Super Bowl too. I think he does ultimately want that moment of winning a Super Bowl. I can't imagine him. Yes, he wants.
I'll backtrack. You're probably right. The thing is that I think he wants to be able to do that and say he made the choices, and he does not have the acumen for that.
Yes, correct. Absolutely correct.
He wants the vanity, like you said, of being able to say, "I made the choices and I beat you."
Yes,
and at this point, he's not willing to not make the choices, so he will not beat anybody.
Well, it would be shameful, I think, if he gave up control and then they won a Super Bowl. It would reflect poorly on him, so he'll never do it. He'll never risk
Yeah,
that.
I can see that. Yeah.
Let's talk about Robert Saleh. I'd like to.
Yep.
When I talked about this really quickly after it happened, we've learned more information since then. Basically, what happened. So Robert Saleh, the New York Jets head coach, got fired. He got escorted out of the building by security. He didn't get to say bye to the team. He didn't really get any closure there. He gave a really classy, I thought, response for a guy who got fired in a very undignified way. I think it's pretty shameful that a 2-3 coach with a terrible offense coming off a performance where his quarterback throws 3 interceptions gets kind of scapegoated and pushed out of the building.
It's escorted, literally pushed out of the building by security, escorted out of the building.
Say what you want. There's no way that man, who for all accounts has come across like a really genuine, awesome, classy dude, getting treated that way is really wrong. It really reflects poorly on.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, it reflects poorly on Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, in my opinion.
Absolutely, it absolutely does.
Now that being said, we've learned since then. Hey, there's a whole conversation. He was considering firing, Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator. Ultimately, it sounds like he was getting ready to demote him and replace him with Todd Downing as a play caller. Not fire Nathaniel Hackett. You could never do that with Aaron Rodgers there, by the way. But making Todd Downing the play caller. Sounds like internally, no matter what Aaron Rodgers says, I'll never believe it. That plan was kind of made, and Aaron was like, nah, you're done. And because we do know for a fact, ownership met with Aaron Rodgers before Robert Saleh got fired. Now, ownership will tell you, Aaron will tell you, oh, we didn't decide to fire Robert Saleh, but like, I'm sorry, where there's smoke, there's fire. You'll never get me to believe Aaron Rodgers didn't play some kind of role in getting them fired.
I agree with you.
Now, I said it could be indirectly. It could be just bad quarterback play, got Robert Saleh fired too. Aaron Rodgers definitely played a part, but I think it's more than just bad quarterback play. I think a conversation and words between Aaron and the ownership led to Robert Saleh getting fired. Either way, I hate how this happened. I hate how it went down. And I want to respond to people because I've said a lot of people in the comments, right? If I talk about Robert Saleh getting fired, people say, well, he's the head coach, not just a defensive coordinator. So he has responsibility for the offense and the defense. Normally, for 31 out of 32 teams, I believe that. However, we know very specifically, hey, Robert Saleh was brought in, gave the offense to Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers, and basically he's been in the offensive meetings this year, yes, but that's not his offense. That's Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers' offense. And no matter what Robert Saleh wanted, he wanted input to be around, to kind of oversee things, but I don't think you can hold him accountable for the offense that Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett put together. I know that's weird. I know he's a head coach. I know I
don't think that's weird at all.
Under his undersight, but
yeah,
you got to have the realization, the awareness to realize, hey, this is not a normal situation. This is a head coach who gave the offense to a coach and a quarterback, and it didn't work out. I just don't think you can hold Robert Saleh accountable for the terrible offense we've seen through the first 5 games of the Jets season. What are your thoughts about Robert Saleh? What do you make of all this?
It's boring because I agree with everything you just said. Like I have no notes. Like they're a bottom 10 offense.
Yeah,
they just are
27th in the league.
20, yeah, they're 23rd,
and
like 22
defense, by the way.
Yeah, I think they're like 23rd in offensive DVOA. Like it's a bad offense. It's a bad offense. There's bad quarterback play. They're doing a poor job of getting their very talented, illustrious running back Breece Hall involved in ways that suit him most. Garrett Wilson has not played to the level that his pedigree would suggest he should be or can. It's a mess. The offense is a mess, and the defense is really good. And to your point, it's unconscionable to me that you could say all these things about the offense being bad, the defense being good. You've got a defensive-minded, and like you said, very personable, very likable, easy to work with person in Saleh that is now being scapegoated by a quarterback who has a tenuous history with head coaches. Sticking up for his guy. Why Nathaniel Hackett is Aaron Rodgers' guy, I think we'll never know. I'll never know, but
I bet it's because he lets Aaron do what he wants.
I mean that's honestly, yeah, like that is I'm sure the answer. But like, I don't get whoever stumbles onto hiring Robert Saleh, especially if they're a team like the Cowboys, who you think would like theoretically be primed for a change like that, but pick a team, right? Like anybody with a coach in the hot seat that is kind of a ready-made team, they're going to get someone who's really good, and they're going to win a lot of games. And I hope it happens because I think Saleh is a really good coach.
Yeah. I
I think
don't
he's
know that
really
he
good
gets
at
a
what
head
he does.
coaching job again. I think because of the offensive failures, it's going to be hard to hire Robert Saleh as a head coach. Just his fault or not, Zach Wilson didn't work, Aaron Rodgers didn't work. Like he had a
That's
lot
what
of.
you got to say. That's what you say, right, in the interview. Like, why have your offenses sucked? Well, okay, let's look at my quarterbacks. Let's look at who I've had playing the position. And I agree with you, but like, I think that's easy to explain away too.
I think so too, but certainly he's the best available defensive coordinator in the NFL, bar none. Like, just he's going to get a job, no problem in football again. I think he's also loved. He's classy. People like him. The locker room loved him. I just think it's a shame the way it all went down. And I will say this. Here's the. So I think the way he got fired sucked. I do want to say this in defense of Woody Johnson, the owner of the New York Jets. You're 2-3. It's not going well, and you're at an inflection point of the season where, like, hey, to save our season, something has to change. Well, hey, are we going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers? No. Are we going to fire Aaron Rodgers' favorite coach? Probably not either. So, what thing is going to have to change? That's the only defensible argument in favor of firing Robert Saleh. Is like, look, hey, this is a Hail Mary to try to make some kind of positive change to wake up our team and change things up to try to save our season. Because if you wait too long, the season's lost. So I don't know, and I not only do I not know, I don't believe that firing Robert Saleh is what turns this season around and saves everything.
Of course,
but like I do understand the thought process of like, look, let's throw a Hail Mary here. Let's see what change we can do to try to make something happen here. So I understand firing Robert Saleh. I think the way it happened sucked, and they made it personal, and it's very weird.
well, you
But
make a good point though about his
does
next
that make sense?
destination. Yeah, of course, I agree with you. No, I do. I mean, but you make a good point about his next destination, right? Like, who are the coaches? Who's on the hot seat right now? Just a quick list. I mean, obviously McCarthy, but he's expiring after the season, so he's not going to get brought back.
Yeah.
Pierce, Canales, Peterson. Do you think Dennis Allen? Probably not, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. All the options, right? I don't think you want to go to the Raiders because they're going to have a rookie quarterback. You don't want to go to Cleveland. They've got a quarterback problem. You don't want to go to, I don't know. The Saints have Derek
Carolina.
Carr. I guess that's cool, but like Dennis Allen's doing a great job with that defense. I don't think defense is the issue in New Orleans either.
Yeah, no, it's like who like it's like if you're talking about him like him ending up somewhere in a head coach spot, it would have to be a fit that you think would make sense to bring him in as a head coach, because to your point, like it will be tough to get him enough to go straight into another head coaching job. So if he is, you think the fit would be such that this makes sense. And of the coaches that you think are kind of on a hot seat right now, there's not a lot of those situations that you think make a ton of sense. So,
and if I'm him, I'm very wary of taking a head coaching job again without a quarterback. Like the Giants, for example, I think the coach might be available, but like, do you want to be the coach of the other New York team without a quarterback? Like, I think Robert Saleh. Look, I think you're nervous about turning down jobs because you don't know how many opportunities you're going to get in your career. I acknowledge that. But if I'm Robert Saleh, I take a cushy defensive coordinator job with a stable offensive head coach and bide my time and do really well and wait for the right opportunity because he's got a ton of money and he's a great coach very clearly. I think anyone with a brain can look at that situation and say, obviously that wasn't Robert Saleh's fault there. Or certainly like what role he played in it was a minor role in a lot of other problems there. I think he goes somewhere like imagine Robert Saleh as the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Playing the Jets, by the way, twice a year, working with Mike McDaniel. That's a match made in heaven. That's a really awesome idea. Something like that. Go somewhere with an established coach where you're not going to get fired. I could also see him going back to the 49ers. I mean, where he's going to find a job very easily and work his way back up. But if I'm him, I'm very wary of taking a job that doesn't have a quarterback. Really, the only job, as I look around, I'm looking at all 32 teams right now. The only team that's going to have a head coaching spot available that's got a really good, stable quarterback is the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Dallas Cowboys are.
So what you're telling me is
that spot for Robert Saleh to go.
Ben Johnson, Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
We're done. I would go into real debt for that. I let me pay some infinitesimally small fraction of their salary to make this happen. Please, that's the dream. That's the dream.
I see a world where Mike McDaniel gets fired in Miami. Can you think of a better pair than Robert Saleh head coach, Mike McDaniel offensive coordinator in Dallas? How
I
fun
love
would
it.
that would move mountains, dude.
It was, but it's like Jerry. Like it's these are guys who want to be involved, right? Who want to make decisions, who want to make choices. You look at Mike McCarthy; he's just staring off into the abyss every time. He's not doing anything. Like those are guys that do stuff, and I don't know.
But I think they've got. I don't think that Mike McDaniel, for example, is the decision maker in Miami. I don't think Robert Saleh was the end all be all decision maker in the Jets.
That's
I think
fair.
both guys could fall in line under Jerry Jones, and that I think those relationships and partnerships could work. And I think those two coaches, they know each other. They coach against each other a lot. They also coach together in the 49ers organization. Like, if you're going to find a perfect solution to fix the Dallas Cowboys, it's Robert Saleh as the head coach, Mike McDaniel's the offensive coordinator, working with Dak Prescott in that defense. Like, you know what I mean? Robert Saleh the defense, Mike McDaniel the offense, and Dak Prescott. That's the dream scenario for a Dallas Cowboys fan. And I think the dream scenario for Robert Saleh, you go there with a great offensive coordinator, you know it's not going to let you down, and a quarterback who's stable, who can make plays, you can trust. He's a leader you need in the locker room. Like, say what you want about Dak's shortcomings. He's a great leader. People love him. People trust him. They depend on him. He's all the things you look for in a leader as a quarterback and as a franchise quarterback. I'm very wary from Robert Saleh of taking a job where the quarterback isn't stable, because you did that once before, and look what happened. And you got blamed unfairly for that.
Blamed. You got put on the bus for that. Can I ask you your opinion on coaching hot seats?
Yeah, like who is on the hot seat?
I'm gonna name two guys, and I want you to tell me whose seat you think is hotter. This is a very first take segment.
Do it.
Mike McDaniel, Nick Sirianni.
Nick Sirianni definitely is, because he is not the play caller and also not showing to be a great CEO. They're 2-2, but there's a lot of frustration there. And it's also a very impatient organization and fan base that's got high expectations and has a lot of talent. So I don't think they're near firing Nick Sirianni yet, but by week 10, if it's not going well, he is on the hot seat. And by week 13, he could be fired. It just depends how the year goes. But certainly he's in a compromised position.
It's getting warmer. It's getting warmer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mike McDaniel, I think getting fired from the Miami Dolphins could be the best blessing of Mike McDaniel's career, honestly, because I think Tua is done. We'll see. It still possibly comes back, but I think Tua probably retires and walks away. Now, the unfortunate reality, and maybe you come up with some kind of Bobby Bonilla strategy where you spread out the contract, but they owe Tua the money, and you can't get out of the money. So you got to pay Tua. Even if he retires, you got to pay him a ton of money to finish out his contract. That's how that works. So at quarterback, you are crippled in Miami for
what's
a long
the cap? So if he retires, everybody says that NBA cap sheets are confusing, and NBA salary cap I'm actually really good with. The NFL is where I struggle a little bit.
Yeah, and you're a finance guy, by the way.
I know. Still, it's like you need to be an attorney. That's what these agents are. Tua has X amount of guaranteed dollars.
Yep.
If he retires, he's still guaranteed those dollars, right?
Correct.
But do those dollars, are they going to also count against the cap, or is that just the team's owing him the contract, but it's non-cap money?
I don't know. But my understanding is it is cap money.
Okay.
I think for a couple of years he's on your books, and
even if he's retired, okay.
My point is it's going to limit your ability to get the next quarterback. So
sure.
I think Mike McDaniel's a good coach. And say what you want, he worked so well with Tua. I think people look at Tua and don't understand, but like some of his I watched that Buffalo Bills game, for example. He was throwing interceptions where he was doing everything right. He hit a receiver in the shoulder pads, and it bounced off the guy's shoulder pads and got picked off. The receiver wasn't looking for the football. It's like, what? Like, that's a perfectly timed throw.
Not Tua's fault. Yeah.
It's hard to hit a receiver in the shoulder pads when they're not looking at you. Do you realize how difficult that is? He threw an interception to Robbie Chosen where he ran the wrong route. Ball's in the right spot. It's in the window between defenders. It's on a perfect line. And by the way, I don't know if people realize this. As an NFL quarterback, you throw the ball before the receiver's looking at you. Like, you can't wait. You throw the ball early before the guy runs into the window and looks at you. Ball's early in the right window. Robbie Chosen runs the wrong route, doesn't get the football, gets picked off. It makes Tua look bad, but those are incredibly difficult, accurate, great anticipation throws that other quarterbacks, and we've seen many times in Miami, can't execute. So I think you can't take away that from Tua. Like, Tua really executed that offense at a high level. And Mike McDaniel, say what you want, with Tua, looked like a genius offensive coordinator. And people are blaming him. The offense looks bad, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, yeah, Skylar Thompson is his quarterback. Tyler Huntley's his quarterback. Like, he doesn't have a quarterback.
Not
And by
great.
the way, trying to throw it together with Tyler Huntley, who's been in your system for 2 weeks when the offense relies heavily on timing and anticipation, like,
Yep.
it's just like impossible. I don't know how you hold this year against Mike McDaniel. However, that's my opinion. And I'm kind of a fan of Mike McDaniel. He's my favorite head coach in football. I'm partial to Tua. I'm partial to Miami. If I had to pick a favorite team, it would be Miami. So I'm biased for sure, but I don't think he's the problem there. However, I don't think Robert Saleh was the problem with the Jets, and he got fired. So I don't think he's safe. If you don't execute and win games, you're on the hot seat. Now, if Miami can find a way to get the number 1 pick and draft Cameron Ward, it solves all their problems. He's a great quarterback who's played really well in structure.
In Miami right now.
Also plays well outside of structure. He's a bigger guy, not as prone to getting hurt, and he'd be on a rookie contract. So while you weather the storm of paying Tua Tagovailoa's money, you're paying a rookie quarterback money. So if somehow Miami can luck their way into the number 1 pick and draft Cameron Ward, you keep Mike McDaniel, it solves all your problems. It's a dream. I don't think that's a realistic hope. I hope for that. I really would. I would kill to see that. I think it'd be incredible. But I don't think Mike McDaniel's safe because I just don't know that people look at it the way I do, which is, hey, with Tua, he was great. Remember, he had a quarterback who led the league in passing last year. It's not like he's a bad coach. He's just got no quarterback this year, but he's getting blamed unfairly. And I don't trust that decision makers are not going to hold that against him.
You know, it's like you wonder, hypothetically, whether it's in meetings with his leaders in Miami or if he's hypothetically fired and has to go somewhere else. Like, you wonder how adept he is at selling that scenario that you're just describing, where it's like, yeah, but come on, like, look at, like, what can you do? All right, like, I got Skylar Thompson, I got Tyler Huntley, like, I'm doing my best here. Like, that's how you sell that. But it's like, is he able to do that? He's a charismatic guy. He's a guy who's done a lot of cool stuff. So I think he could. But yeah,
a dream. I want to say this again because I said it in the last segment about Robert Saleh. A dream head coach, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator pairing. It's Robert Saleh and Mike McDaniel. They'd work well together. They're both really personable. They're great personalities. They know each other. They've got history together.
Younger guys.
I cannot imagine a better defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator pairing than Robert Saleh and Mike McDaniel. And I think they would win a Super Bowl, like, for real. I think it would be an unbelievable bringing together. It's like building your head coaching Avengers, honestly. I have high regard for Mike McDaniel. Other people, I look around the league and the discourse and just people don't seem to share that opinion with me, but I can't think of, he's one of my favorite coaches in football. He's a genius when it comes to, especially the run game design. People don't realize, I was an offensive coordinator briefly, and I stole so much from Mike McDaniel. His ability to create leverage and put offensive linemen in a position in the run game where they succeed. And he runs the ball well, by the way, often in Miami with, frankly, not very talented offensive linemen by just scheming them into good positions where they're going to win almost by default because the angle makes great sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's a genius in the run game specifically, but also with timing and the skill set that Mike McDaniel had. Like, look, if Mike McDaniel had been the offensive coordinator with Robert Saleh and Zach Wilson, I think Zach Wilson's a franchise quarterback. I think the skill set that's not talked about with Mike McDaniel is his curation of building a relationship with the quarterback and building confidence with that quarterback. The way he builds up his guys, builds around them, builds confidence with them. The coach-quarterback relationship, when you're calling plays and designing an offense, is everything. I think that's the most underrated skill Mike McDaniel has, is his ability to build confidence and build a relationship with his quarterback. And I look, say what you want. I think Cliff Kingsbury, Bobby Slowick are two guys who have proven to be really, really great with a rookie quarterback. I would love to see Mike McDaniel get a stab at working with a rookie quarterback and build that number one, first round pickup into a great quarterback, because I think he could do it. Because the way he built up Tua and frankly saved his entire career by seeing, here's the good Tua has. Here's what he's good at. Here's how I can help him develop. And here's how I can make him feel confident and comfortable. He did all of that. He threaded that needle perfectly. And so I know we've got examples we've seen very clearly with Bobby Slowick working with C.J. Stroud and Cliff Kingsbury working with Jaden Daniels. Say what you want about Ben Johnson. I don't know that he can work with a rookie quarterback. He did well with Jared Goff, but that's a different expectation. We've seen Dave Canales work with a second-year quarterback, but basically a rookie quarterback with Bryce Young, and frankly, handle that really poorly and not massage the kid into doing well. I think that's an underrated skill set. I think another guy who's done well, Sean Payton, developing Bo Nix. I really would like to see Mike McDaniel, before I die, work with a rookie quarterback and see how he develops the kid, because I think he'd do that really
well. He came into year 3 with Tua, right? So Tua had 2 full years to, form some habits.
Yeah. But he had to actually teach him good habits and help him unlearn bad habits. I think it's actually almost more difficult to take a quarterback who's been struggling for 2 years and turn them into a good thing than a quarterback coming out of college with, basically a blank slate.
I would agree. No, it's like you don't get to mold this person in your vision. You have to like undo bad habits, which I'm with you. I agree. Like
and fix a lack of confidence. Like where Mike McDaniel would also be great. I think he'd solve the problem in Pittsburgh. I think Mike McDaniel coaching Justin Fields would be really fun and interesting. I really have high regard for Mike McDaniel, and I think it's clear I have higher regard for him than almost anyone in the football world. But I just really believe in the guy. He's compelling. He's awesome. I think
it's almost tragic that I think it's tragic that a lot of the discourse, especially if you look on like Instagram or kind of the the quick service social media, you could say, the discourse on Mike McDaniel is more about like funny things he says at press conferences, or the fact that he wears he wears joggers and sneakers and kind of is the way acts the way he's eccentric and he's kind of odd, and that dominates. And I think it's funny, and I agree, and I think he's kind of quirky for that, but like that dominates the discourse around Mike McDaniel more than like how talented of a mind he actually is.
And his people skills, his ability to navigate relationships is unparalleled. And like the age we live in is one of like YouTube Reels and Instagram Shorts and things that are, I think I actually said that about YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, but like 60-second hits on people, and that doesn't allow you the time in the media space to really dive into a conversation like this where you're praising his people skills, his ability to develop relationships. And that's like, I think he's a great offensive mind, clearly. Great play caller, great designer of plays, whatever you want to call it. A mastermind of scheme. But his people skills are what set him apart with Mike McDaniel. And his story, his resiliency, overcoming some really tough stuff in his life, that matters. And that's what the current media landscape doesn't afford, right? We don't have the time to have a conversation like that on a YouTube short or reel. And that's like so discouraging and disappointing. This is now an aside, but I just look around the media world in general, and I look around sports media, and I often wonder, like, is this a space for me? Like, is this something I don't know that I like. My favorite musician, John Bellion, stepped away from music for like 6 years, and part of that was a contract, but part of that's like he doesn't want to play the game. And I look around the podcast world and the sports media world and go like, I don't know that I want to play this game, and I don't know that I'm made for this. I'm made to talk about football and talk about things I love, but I don't know that I'm ever gonna get to the top of the sports world just because I don't have the acumen or the desire to play that YouTube reel, shorts game, the quick hits, the Stephen A. Smith yelling at each other. Like, I just don't have that in me. And I think it hurts me for sure, but I just wish we were
professionally, but it doesn't hurt you from an integrity standpoint. You're doing a good segue here, unknowingly. Are we buttoning up football, or do you have more you want to talk about?
You said you wanted to talk about the Detroit Lions. Was there anything there you wanted to mention?
Oh, good point. Okay, we can save your segue. You made a great accidental segue, but we can revert back to that. I want to know if you think this is real or not.
Okay.
So this is ripped from Chris Long, longtime NFL defensive end, has a podcast. It's pretty good. Yep. Not going to pimp it on this show.
I'll feel free. I don't honestly.
That was mostly a joke, but Greenlight Pod, Chris Long, good stuff.
Love it.
In 2024, teams that played the Detroit Lions the week before are 0-4 with a minus 87 point differential. 0-4, small sample size, season's young. I even went back and did my own research on last year. Not much of a correlation. Do we think this means anything? Is this worth looking into at all? Is this worth considering at all? Or is this worth, trying to find why or prescribing, or is this just like kind of a coincidence?
So you're saying Seattle played them in week 4.
Week 4.
And then they lost.
Lost to the Giants week 5.
Arizona played them week 3, then lost the next week. Tampa played them week 2.
Breaks off. Yeah, these wins are big. Like the 9-point Giants win over Seattle was the only one of these 4 instances in which it wasn't like a 3-score game.
Oh, I'm wrong. So you're saying if you play the Lions, the next week you win big.
No, you lose big.
You lose big.
You lose big. Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know there's anything to that.
Chris Long was saying how he thinks it's the Dan Campbell experience. Like the way that that these guys play football for him and under him, it's rough and tumble, it's difficult, it's hard, and he beats you to death. And that the next week that takes its toll. It might mean nothing. It probably means nothing. But I saw it. I wanted your take on it.
Let's say this. Let's come back to that at the end of the year. And like,
okay.
I don't think there's anything to that. I think it's a happy coincidence. But if it continues, then there is something to it, right? That's how that works. You just build a bigger sample size and judge against it. If we look back, I mean, there's a chance Dallas plays them week 6 and then gets obliterated week 7.
They won't. No, they won't, because Dallas has a bye week. Big win.
Could it be the next game, though?
You know, the way that Long was talking about it was that it's the physical nature of how the Lions play. And I feel like once you have a bye week, you can't count that anymore. You're 2 weeks removed from that game.
No, but it does make sense. I mean, I think that the Lions are the most physical team in football. And then I think Pittsburgh's kind of trying to be that, but isn't as good at it.
Yeah.
No, did you see the way they beat? Who did they beat? Was it the Rams week 1 where David Montgomery had that touchdown? I think it was in overtime. Yeah, it was the Rams game.
Yeah, it was
week 1, and like they won by just beating the tar out of the Rams. Like,
yeah.
And by the end of the game in overtime, they're like, "Oh, we're just going to run the ball like 7 times in a row."
Amon-Ra St. Brown block. He loves it.
Yeah,
he goes out of his way to hit people.
Sorry, they had an 8-play, 70-yard drive in overtime against the Rams to win the game. They ran the ball 7 times.
Nice.
In 8 plays, and just
very cool.
12 yards, 21 yards, 9 yards, 3 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, touchdown. Like bang, 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 power
down your throat,
ball, hitting you, hurting you. I think there's a little something to that in that. And I've talked about this before. Playing the Lions hurts. Like it's a physical game. You leave bruised, you leave beat up, your knees hurt, your back hurts. No one leaves that game feeling great when you play them, and I love that, man. Like I
do too.
We come. I want to say this tactfully. I don't know if you followed any of this, but and I'm not going to mention anything, but I'll say this as indirect as I can. There's a situation with a football team where they're getting a lot of smack talk to them, and it's hurting people's feelings, understandably so.
I'm familiar.
To me, the only answer is, hey, we play a beautiful sport. If someone's talking trash to you, you hit them. It's like it's one of the only places in the world where you're actually allowed to hit people back if they talk to you.
This is why, as an aside, I hate when people say, if someone gets a sack and like does a little dance, they're like, well, when I deliver the mail, I don't dance. It's like, well, you don't get to hit your coworkers. Stop pretending that you're the same as an NFL player.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah. Oh, but I just think if someone's talking smack to you in the football world, you've got a unique opportunity to literally hit them and push them into the ground. And I think it's like one of the beautiful parts of football is if you talk trash, you do it at your own risk. I would never talk trash to the Detroit Lions because I know they're going to pummel me and make me punish me for that. And so I think I tactfully handled that. That's the only thing I'm ever going to say about that. But yeah, let's. I've got one more question actually before we get into the next topic of conversation. Did you watch Thursday Night Football at all tonight? It's okay if you did not.
I did. Yeah.
What'd you make of the game?
It's funny that it seems like, after the Niners grow up big, it's like this is probably still going to end up being a game. And it was, by and large. The biggest takeaway of the game for me, and I wonder how this is going to get handled in the coming days. How is it that the replay center has fewer camera angles than the broadcast team with regards to being able to review things like muffed punts late in games?
It's a shame, right?
How is that a reality that we live in?
Is it intentional? Is it willful?
Is there an answer that makes it anything close to acceptable?
No, there's no acceptable answer there.
It didn't end up mattering, but I mean, one of the great ball don't lie situations. Gino throws a pick, 3 plays later in his own red zone.
Yeah,
but my God, I mean you butterfly effect, do whatever. Seahawks have the ball with under 6 minutes left, with a whole field to go, down by, what was it, 6, I think? They could have won that game. They really could have won that game off of like what is nothing less than a completely blown call.
Yeah.
I don't. So it's kind of a boring, like, what do you make of it? It's like something that didn't even happen on the field, more or less. But it's like that's what rings out to me. Like, how is this happening in 2024? I don't get it.
I would say it's inexcusable. But I also wonder if it's willful ignorance by the NFL. Like they don't. It's a good out to protect themselves. But they should have every camera that I
saw.
can't.
I saw comment on Reddit.
Go ahead.
I saw comment on Reddit that's if the people in the replay center were watching that game from a bar in New York City, they would have been more equipped to change that call or to change that ruling than they were from the NFL replay center. That's staggering.
Shameful. Well, did you want to just put the TV copy on so they can correct calls that way? Is that what they got to do? Just one of the TVs in their massive command center has the actual game on ESPN?
So, will that keep this from happening? Because like it's silly, but okay, sure. Like if they need the broadcast cameras, because the broadcast cameras the broadcast feed apparently has more angles than they have somehow, then I guess that's what we have to do. It's shocking. It's shocking that in the end that the NFL, the Shield, the billions and billions of dollars that are funneled through and around this league, and it's America's sport, we're still dealing with this. How is this real?
We live in a world where I think common sense is getting rarer and rarer. And that's one of those things where you're like, common sense would say, like, this is a call, it's easy to get right, and we're not doing it. And it's like
so easy to get right.
Man, it's disappointing. I'll say this, you know who would help the 49ers a lot? Robert Saleh.
Robert Saleh. Okay, yeah, nice.
I wouldn't be shocked if he was right back in the 49ers organization. Like if he put him as a candidate, like I think the defense is underperforming in San Francisco, and Robert Saleh could make a world of difference there. And I'm really curious. Jeff Ulbrich, I really like. He's the defensive coordinator, I guess now acting head coach of the New York Jets. I really, really like him. He went to Hawaii, played football. He's worked with Robert Saleh a lot. He came up with the 49ers, played linebacker in the 49ers organization. I wonder if he's ever going to work with Robert Saleh again. I think so. They like each other. They work well together. I don't think Jeff Ulbrich is the head coach next year of the New York Jets. I don't think he makes it through this year. And I think that's something to keep tabs on. Where does Jeff Ulbrich land next? And I would not be surprised at all if he lands right back working with Robert Saleh again. I really respect Jeff Ulbrich. He's a great defensive coordinator, and he's going to find a job as well. No problem after this Jets fiasco is over.
Does it seem like there's already some smoke with Nick Sorensen?
Yeah.
Like there was a quote I saw a few days back, like Nick Bosa, like may or may not have like taken a little pot shot at his own DC.
Let's be clear for the listeners. Nick Sorensen is the 49ers defensive coordinator for anyone who doesn't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's telling to me, right? I mean, he joins the staff. This is his first year. I should say, as the DC, he's been with the team for several years in defensive roles now.
Yeah, this is his third year with the 49ers organization.
Yeah. And no, you're right. I mean, especially, given I don't think the defense has actually been bad. I don't think it's been bad. Certainly not.
Yeah.
Personnel.
They've been underwhelming.
Personnel considering,
sure,
you could make an argument that they've been a little underwhelming.
No, I don't think he's been bad. I just think Robert Saleh would be better.
And there's some, he's back, right? Some continuity there. There's, he is a familiar face, a friendly face. He's back in the building. I think it would, excite the guys. I don't know. I hope to see it. I actually don't, because I hate the 49ers. I hope that everything goes bad for them. But as like the football fan in me who just likes to see good football happen, it would be interesting, exciting. But
let's shift gears now. I want to talk about baseball. Now, before I lead us into that, you said I stumbled into a great segue. What are you talking about? What happened there? What did I miss?
This is kind of old news now because the playoffs are in full swing and we're in the divisional series round. Shohei Ohtani did a momentous thing this season. And you talked about media. You talked about the way things are covered now. And you talked about pitfalls of that and where we are as consumers and how the media plays into that. And I can't help but think that in a previous era, Shohei Ohtani's season this year that culminates in 54 home runs and 60 stolen bases for the LA Dodgers. If we're in like 1996 or something, this leads every show for months, right? Like this is the most important thing that's happening in sports. By and large, like again in that time, like this would dominate discourse. And I think it deserves to. I think that something like this, for people who are not familiar, Shohei Ohtani, Japanese two-way player, started his career with the LA Angels and now is a Dodger. Go ahead.
Correction. Is it 60 or 59 stolen bases? I have 59.
It might be 59. It might be 59.
Now we're splitting hairs there, but
if it would have been like 60 home runs and 60, it would have been like more momentous to get the even number thing. But you're right, it's 59. I apologize.
no worries.
He founded baseball likes clubs, right? It's the 50-50 club is new now. Shohei Ohtani founded it. It's 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases in one season. There's all kinds of clubs. There's the 500, 600, 700 home run club. There's the 20-20 club, which is a ton of guys who have done 20-20. Albeit, this is to say that the 50-50 club that Shohei Ohtani founded this season is a momentous thing that a player, again, he's a two-way player, he also pitches. No one's had a season like this, ever. This game is 150 years old, and no one's ever done this before. No one's ever come close to this before. In the way, I mean, they have, but like not really. He plays for the Dodgers, right? Like short of the Yankees, he plays for the LA Dodgers. We should be giving him flowers every day. And I know there's going to be like comments that are like, glaze more. And it's like, you know what? I will. I actually will. Because this is incredible. This is an incredible person. This is an incredible feat. He is the best baseball player that's ever lived. He doesn't have the accolades yet. He doesn't have World Series rings, doesn't have batting titles. He founded the 50-50 club, and 2 years ago he came fourth in Cy Young voting. This is the greatest player ever. This is the greatest player of all time playing, what people still say is America's pastime. That's kind of football now. But this is theoretically like America's game. We've had it for over a century. He's the best who's ever done it. And he's doing new things every day. And it's like, why is Stephen A still talking about the Cowboys? Why is Skip still talking about LeBron James? Do you not see what we have here? This is momentous. I could cry. This is amazing.
Yeah.
This needs to be on everybody's radar.
I'll tell you why it's not, though. It's very clear and obvious. America doesn't care about baseball. Like I
get it. I get why, but like, come on, man. Like, we need to be better. Like,
no, I think we live in a world though where there's incredible stuff that's never happened before, ever in our lifetime, happening all the time. I mean, look at even like a weird off the beaten path example. It's like Hurricane Helene hitting the Carolinas and flooding Carolinas, and a hurricane hitting a place that's like hundreds of miles inland that's never happened before, right? So I think we're just used to things that never happened before happening.
And is it the news cycle? Is it the fact that things that things are momentous, and then like 2 days later we don't care, and it's just, this is everything. This is sports. This is everything. Like,
yes,
we had, and I'm not even making a statement one way or another. We had an assassination attempt on a former president, and that was in the news for like 2 weeks. Yeah. Like, things just move faster now.
Yes.
So I grant that, but like, it doesn't mean I'm not mad at it.
No, I'm setting up my life soon to go live in the woods and disappear. Now I'll make content, but like I'm gonna try to get off the grid and just kind of do my own thing. And I'll pay attention to sports media. I just actually really cleaned up my Instagram. I'm gonna keep doing it over the next couple of days, like where I basically follow my friends, my future wife, and sports pages and meme pages, and that's it. And I just kind of live. I'm trying to disconnect myself from everything. And it's we just don't. we don't engage with stuff. We don't care. Right? It's the truth. I mean, we've had, dude, there's sensational news all the time that like we just skip over and gloss over and don't care about. And this is one of those things that like this should be a massive story and it's not. And
And
it's more a symptom of like that's how the news is now.
well,
That's
and
how
here's the
we
thing:
do
I'm
it.
guilty in the sense that like there are things like this that happen. If you're really into movies, or you're really into reading books, or you're really into music, or you're really into theater,
Yeah.
people have the things they're really into, and momentous things like this happen in everybody's arena all the time, and they get even less attention on any sort of grand scale than like sports does and baseball does. And to those people, I recognize that. I'm sorry that it's that way. I, I don't have a better thing to say outside of like, because this is in my sphere, I inherently will care more. I'm not saying that people that don't care about sports or don't care about baseball need to care about Shohei Ohtani. I wish they would.
Yeah.
But if you're a sports fan, if you're someone who says, I like this is my passion, this is what I'm into, this is my hobby, this is what I do, you owe it to yourself. You have to care about this. You have to care. This is such a big deal.
I wonder though if the language barrier plays a part too, where like I'd love to see interviews of him and stories of him and ESPN special coverage of him, but like it doesn't happen. And part of it's because like he's not as relatable to an average American. Because he's
True.
just there's a layer of inaccessibility built in
He
because of
still
his
uses
role.
a translator,
Yeah,
and he speaks English. Apparently, the stories say he speaks English on the clubhouse, lightly, but like
yeah.
when he addresses the media, he uses a translator.
Well, here's also why. By the way, here's why I say that because how does the story continue? This incredible thing happened, but how do we keep covering it a month later? It's by telling his story and making us more familiar with him and getting to know show. Let's get in behind the scenes access on the guy who did this crazy thing, but like that's kind of a non-starter because he speaks Japanese and he's actually harder to break
And
down the balls
culturally, I
on.
feel like like he's a traditional Japanese man from what we know about him, and that's a culture that doesn't do a whole lot of like me type thing. Like
Yeah. He's not about him.
generally,
It doesn't
he's not
seem.
about him at all. No, he's just he. I mean, he's not about him to the degree now. He signed a $700 million contract, so that is what it
Sure.
is.
Sure.
He's deferred like 90+% of it on a yearly basis to be paid after he's done with his career, because he's his logic to that is it allows ownership to have more money now to surround me and other stars in this team with quality talent that can take us all the way. He spent his first several years of his career up until this year playing for an Angels team that is notably cheap and notably pinches pennies. And when they do spend, it's usually on the wrong guy. This is the first time he's ever made the postseason right now. So
Yeah.
he's done all these amazing things and he's largely been wasted. So now he gets a chance to do all these amazing things, but also win. And he could take his, $70 million a year from the Dodgers. And he says, no, give me $2 million a year. And that other $68 million, that's free cash flow that we can use to bring in other guys and we can win games.
Yeah.
And they're a phenomenal team who is playing Game 5 of the NLDS tomorrow night. And as much as I think, I have it kind of in my genes to like not like teams like in LA and New York and these big city, big market, big spender teams. I kind of just want to keep watching this guy play in big games.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the I'm looking right now at a bracket for baseball teams, and there's two
Mm-hmm.
teams I want to talk about that really grab my mind. But like, not only is Shohei that story happened in the regular season, but like he's still playing. It's still you
Mm-hmm.
still could engage with it, and that's the way the story continues. And actually, that's encouraging to me. When do they play next? I actually am going to go out of my way to tune into this next time they play because
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, I believe they play a clinching Game 5 of the NLDS. Winner goes on, loser goes home. And these
Awesome.
teams, I don't know if you've seen this at all. Dodgers and Padres hate each other. This has been a very contentious series. A lot of back and forth. Fans throwing things at players throwing balls into dugouts. Like it's been a hot series,
Yeah.
and it reaches its head tomorrow night.
I'm gonna watch this. We're having BLT night at Molly's mom's house. So
Beautiful, yeah.
BLTs, baseball, and a great time. It's gonna be a good night. I'm gonna have the game on while I have BLTs and hang out my fiance and her mom. It's gonna be really cool. So, um, Yeah, so part of why I wanted to bring you on to talk about baseball is I just wanted to get myself back in. We're in October, middle of October. Everyone knows that's when baseball really starts, in my opinion. It's like, oh, that's when the best baseball happens.
The hunt for October. That's what they call it. I mean, it's playoff time.
Elimination playoff baseball is up there with the best sports in the world. I mean, it's incredible. The tension of like, you got a runner on second, you're down 2, and any pitch could tie the game. Like that kind of tension.
There's
is
no clock. I mean, there's the pitch clock now, bro, but there's no clock, right? That's the beauty of it. It takes as long as it takes. How long's a baseball game? It's 27 outs. That's as long as it takes. Like,
yeah.
That's what's beautiful about it. Especially, playoff time. There's no, they've instituted rules, as I'm sure you know, in the last couple of years. Extra innings games in the regular season has a runner on second to start for each team. It's an attempt to make games go faster. None of these marathon games, which I love, but I get why teams don't. But playoff time, that goes away, and these games take as long as they take, and there's a beauty in that.
Yeah, so I'll be watching. It'll be really cool. Here's what I'm looking at, Austin. Yeah. So the Tigers play the Guardians. That series is tied 2-2.
I'm a lifelong Tigers fan. Did you know that about me?
No.
Yeah, this has been a great October.
Interesting. So they play Saturday. Friday, they play the clinching game of the ALDS. The Padres play the Dodgers. However, already clinched in the ALCS and NLCS are 2 teams in the same city, the Yankees and the Mets. And look, man, is it boring? Is it regional? Yes. Would it be incredibly fun if the Yankees play the Mets in the World Series?
A Subway Series World Series would be incredible. Series World Series is awesome.
I want that to happen. And I know that would require your favorite team losing and Shohei Ohtani to lose, but like, can we talk about the possibility of that? The Yankees, the Mets, how fun that would be?
What do you think? So the nation at large would entirely back the Mets, right? Like the upstart, the scrappy kind of other New York team would be like against the big bad Yanks. Like that would be what would happen, right?
Yes.
It would be electric. It would be so fun. It would, and I would be one of those people. Go Mets. There's a lot of storylines, and that's one of the biggest ones. And the other one I think, as far as teams, if we're not doing Subway Series, we're doing the Brand Series. Dodgers, Yankees. Come on.
LA against New York, yeah.
And with the 2 MVPs of their leagues, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, the 2 best sluggers in baseball, the Yankees, the Dodgers, East Coast, West Coast. You could build this in a million different ways. And it'd be a showdown.
Yeah.
So a lot of ways you can go. Baseball's fun right now.
Shohei, from my understanding, hasn't pitched because he had the injury to the shoulder. Is he pitching? It's been a long enough time though now. Is he pitching now or still no, right?
He's not pitching now. He had Tommy John surgery. Apparently he had some sort of like new age Tommy John surgery that's supposed to be even better. It's a UCL replacement. It's a ligament in your elbow, for those who don't know. It's a thing that pitchers often have to deal with because pitching is really bad for your elbow. So this is what lost in the shuffle is. This is a rehab season for Shohei Ohtani. He had surgery not that long ago on his elbow, and he came back after having surgery that has a very long recovery time, and he founded the 50-50 Club and almost won the Triple Crown and batted .310 and hit 54 home runs. Can
I ask a really dumb question? And this will tip my position that I haven't been watching much baseball. As a National League team, is it all designated hitters now in the National League? Like, how has he been playing? What position is he playing? How is he involved?
Yeah, so several years back, the NL got rid of pitchers hitting. So both leagues run DHs now.
Perfect.
And there are the Dodgers do, and this is open to every team. It's not just the Dodgers, but the Dodgers are the only team that have a pitcher that hits. There are rules in place that allow for Shohei to pitch and then also hit out of the leadoff spot because that's how good he is. Yeah. And then if Shohei comes out of the game as a pitcher,
he can still stay in his designated hitter.
Yes, if they swap out the DH. So the DH would have to be subbed out for Ohtani, who would then have to be subbed out as pitcher. There's it's different. Yeah. There's weird stuff they can do with it to keep him in the game. And some people say, well, this benefits the Dodgers more. And it's like, well, yeah, because they found the guy that can pitch and hit. So when you do that, then you can do the same thing. It's
go for it.
Kind of the way it goes. Try. Yeah, go find that guy and you can do the same thing. Yeah. But yeah, no. So that's how in the NL it will work. And next year, they haven't ruled out the idea that he could pitch limited innings in the World Series, which is insane to me.
That's why I'm like, look, it's October now. It's going to be end of October by the time the World Series happens. How can you, Shohei Ohtani, a pitcher, not be itching to pitch a little bit in the World Series? Like, if you got the capability and it's been long enough and you're getting ready to pitch next year, you can't pitch at the end of this year. Like, I just have a hard time imagining if they make it in, he's not going to want to pitch a little bit. Just I know that's not how rehab works. I know that's not how the world works necessarily, but like,
he had surgery almost exactly 13 months ago to the day. He's just over a year into surgery. And when the World Series comes around, we're a few more weeks in. I don't think it happens because I don't think they would risk their $700 million man coming back too early, even in a World Series game. But they haven't, from what I heard, from what I've seen, they haven't completely ruled out the potential that he throws limited innings in the World Series. He wouldn't be a starter. He would probably come in to get you like 3 to 6 key outs is what you'd imagine he would be doing.
How do you not pull the trigger on that to win a World Series? Like, you just, if you're in a chance for a World Series, you do everything you possibly can. I think, to me, the idea
is like, if you think you could win 4 or 5 during his career, you're going to risk that because you threw him 2 months too early and he blew his elbow out again. He's already had 2 Tommy. This is his second Tommy John surgery.
Yeah,
like
fair. Well, what's so cool about him though is if he ever like can't pitch, he just hits. Like, you're not.
You know what's nuts is he said that he prefers pitching. He hits 54 home runs and steals 59 bases and hits 310 as like a side gig. Like,
yeah, that's
it's bananas.
I think it's crazy he's that good, but I think pitching is way more enjoyable than like pitching is.
He likes it. Yeah.
It's playing quarterback. You're in control. It's everything. You're the game. I love pitching. We played the same baseball team as a kid. I pitched. It was awesome. I love that experience.
You could say the biggest moment. I don't even think this. You could argue this the biggest moment of his career because again he's been stuck with the Angels up until the season was striking out his then teammate Mike Trout in the bottom of the 9th inning in the World Baseball Classic Championship game, USA versus Japan. Ohtani came into close and he struck out Mike Trout and he won the WBC for his country, which means so much in Japan.
Yeah.
And it's like as good of a season as he's had hitting and as good of a hitter as he is, his signature moment for his career is him as a closing pitcher. Ironically, where maybe we see him as a Dodger this year, potentially. His biggest moment is as a closing pitcher.
Like, I understand thinking about 4 or 5 World Series throughout his career, but like you got to get one. And if he helps you get one for 3 outs, pull the trigger. I can't imagine leaving that resource untapped 13 months after surgery. It's been a long time. You assume he's healed. Who knows? But man, it's just hard to imagine that resource being left on the bench when it's like, you want to do everything you can to win a World Series, in my opinion. Here's a question for you. So we talked about the Yankees and Mets. The Subway Series would be really cool. We talked about Shohei Ohtani. Is there any other storylines? I'm not familiar with this situation where I'm kind of like stepping into baseball late as I do every October. Baseball comes around, it gets interesting. I start caring right at the end of the season, and I lean on people like you to let me know, hey, what else should I be looking for? So what other storylines should I be paying attention to at this point of the year in baseball?
Let's talk about my Tigers.
Okay.
The Detroit Tigers on August 11th played a daytime game in the Bay Area against the San Francisco Giants. At first pitch of that game, the Tigers had a 0.2% chance to make the postseason. They were, I believe, 9 games or 11 games under 500. They were deep deficit in the wild card. And from that date on, they were the hottest team in baseball. They saw their postseason odds climb. And into the last week of the season, the last 2 series of the season, they were in a dead heat with 2 other teams in the AL Central for 1 wildcard spot, or 3 teams for 2 wildcard spots. They got one. This is a team that came from nowhere. They get what ended up being a favorable draw in the Houston Astros in the wildcard series, a team that hasn't. The Houston Astros before the season had not missed the ALCS since the Obama administration. Detroit beat them in 2 games. Straight games took them out. And now they're playing the AL Central rival Cleveland Guardians. And on Saturday, we're going to have Game 5. This is a team that came from nowhere. This is a team that has no, outside of their presumably unanimous Cy Young winning starting pitcher Tarek Skubal. This team's all-star was a guy named Riley Green, who you haven't heard of. This team has nobody who's hit more than, I think Tim Kirkland said it was 75 RBIs, and no one who's hit more than 30 home runs. This is a team right now that in the middle of October has 13 rookies on the daily, on the everyday roster right now. They're doing it in such a unique way. They're utilizing their bullpen. They're leaning on Skubal. They're playing tremendous defense. It's awesome. They're calling it chaos ball. And what I was unfortunately didn't mention in this Astros series, the Tigers are managed by former Astros manager AJ Hinch, who won the Astros the World Series, the garbage can season for the Astros, the cheating season. Hinch was the manager. So a lot of people are conflicted because you don't like AJ Hinch, but you love these upstart Tigers. He's implemented this system that people are kind of colloquially referring to as chaos ball, which is where you have your number one starter in Skubal, who's won essentially every game he's played this year, or has at least set the Tigers up to win that game. And then you got a bunch of guys. You got a bunch of guys who are not really starters and who are not really relievers and who are not really closers, who have all played every role, and it's purely analytically matchup driven. So you might have Bo Brisky is a member of the Tigers pitching staff, and some days he closes and gets you your last 3 outs, and some days he comes in the fourth and throws 35 pitches and gets you 2 2/3. The Tigers went through 7 pitchers today. I think it was 6 or 7 pitchers today.
Wow!
Everything you could be an opener. So here's a good example. So Hinch is really into this idea of platooning, which for non-baseball people is generally, this is not a hard and fast rule, but batters have an advantage against pitchers who are the opposite handedness of them. If you're a right-handed batter, you're typically better against left-handed pitchers and vice versa. And if you're pitching, you prefer to pitch to people who are the same handedness as you, lefty-lefty, righty-righty. Hinch leans really far into this, and it's very interesting the approach to this he has. Detroit has a pitcher who, again, is like barely a starter, but has started sometimes, named Kiter Montero. He's a righty. Before Game 4, when asked, Hinch said, "Yeah, Montero's going to start Game 4." So Guardians manager Stephen Voigt hears this and he says, "Okay, they're going to start a righty. Let's pack this lineup full of lefties today." Makes sense. Montero throws 6 pitches and is pulled for a lefty. He pitched the first inning. He faced his requisite 3 batters because that's the rule now. And in the second inning, he was pulled. And that lineup saw lefty pitching the rest of the day. That's the kind of stuff that Hinch is doing. He's playing matchups. He's playing analytics. He's confusing people. You have no idea who you're going to see until the last possible second that lineups have to be announced. You know that every 5th game at Skubal, and in between those 5 games, you got no idea who you're going to see that day.
So you have a ton of different players swapping in and out of the starting lineup in the batting order too.
Yes, and that
I'm looking at their stats and I'm like, man, everyone has got a ton of at bats. It's kind of weird the way that,
because the way he platoons pitching, he platoons hitting, and he feels this is a strong thing. So you might, and this is the thing that people have talked about too with this Tigers team, is how there's no ego involved, and I think a lot of it's because it's young guys. This is a team that sold at the deadline who went on a tear afterward, and you might have gone 3 for 5 with a home run and a double and 4 RBIs the previous game, and today you're out of the lineup. You don't like the matchup. Sorry, man. But all those guys, even that guy who was out of the lineup the next day, he's on the top step. He's clapping up. He's excited. They're juiced, because when the other team puts in their righty and you're a lefty and it's the 8th inning and we got 2 guys on and 2 outs and we're down by 1 and we need a run, we need a big at bat right now, you're up.
Interesting.
Everybody can play. Everybody plays defense. It's incredible.
It's totally unconventional. It's bucking the trend. It takes full buy-in from everyone, because you got to be ready in the 8th inning when your number is called. So you got to be engaged in the game. You're not sitting in the back with a hoodie on the bench. You're like all in on the game, engaged, being a part of it, ready to go for your name to be called at any moment. And it's frankly a revolution in baseball. This is working and could change this approach that a lot of other teams take as well. So it's, man, we don't see revolutions like this in sports very often. Moneyball's one of them, and it did not. It's had a split effect. This is one that like could theoretically completely change the way baseball is played, and also eliminate egos, but also in a weird way, it kind of eliminates star players too. It's very fascinating to me how that it works out. Riley Green has the third most at bats on this team. Is it pretty? Matt Vierling, Colt Keith, and Riley Green, have they consistently been in the starting lineup the most out of everyone else?
Green, especially because defensively, Green's a monster.
Green
is one of the best defensive left fielders in baseball. So he plays every day. He's a good bat, not an amazing bat. He's a good bat, probably the best consistent bat Detroit's had all season, as a matter of fact.
Cool, because three people have 500 at bats on this team, and then everyone else has less than 400. So like they are head and shoulders. Colt Keith, Matt Vierling, and Riley Green. I apologize. I don't know Matt Vierling from a hole in the wall. I don't know his actual name how you say it, but they have close at bats by far compared to everyone else in this baseball team.
Matt Vierling was the only player. He had some postseason experience. He played for the Phillies before he came to Detroit, and he was the only player on this entire Tigers team, literally the entire team, who had played a single postseason game. He had 12 postseason games with the Phillies coming into this season with Detroit. He's the only one. He's somehow, despite being pretty young and not all that experienced, is the veteran playoff guy of the group. It's a scrappy group. They play defense. They're not home run reliant, which like in the regular season you like to hit home runs because you win a lot of games hitting home runs. But in like playoff ball, in a 5-game set, you go cold for a few games, your season's over. This is what happened with Philadelphia. Like they're a home run reliant team. They weren't able to find that juice against the Mets, and they're out now. Detroit is not that. They hit singles. They work your bullpen. They make defenses make plays. They put pressure on you, and that doesn't go out of style.
These guys are all really young, man.
13 rookies,
in their early 20s. It's kind of crazy.
So Kerry Carpenter is kind of the revelation of this team. He had a pretty significant back injury earlier in the season that kept him out for a long time. Carpenter also notably exceedingly poor against left-handed pitching. He's a phenomenal hitter. He's actually 4th in the entire MLB in slugging percentage to righties, behind like Ohtani, Judge, someone else, can't remember who's third. Kerry Carpenter demolishes right-handed hitting, right-handed pitching rather. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's a monster. He's an amazing hitter, and he's young. And in game 2, he didn't start. He came off the bench. He was a pinch hitter. He pinch hit, I believe, in the 7th inning. He took 2 at-bats that game as arguably the scariest hitter on the roster right now. And he hit a 3-run home run off the best closer in baseball, Emmanuel Clase, to seal game 2 for Detroit. It's that kind of thing. He's coming to the ballpark every day and thinking, man, I'm the guy. I'm dangerous. I'm a hitter. But he's not thinking that. He's thinking, I just want to do the best thing I can do today. And if that means sit on the top step and clap it up for my guys for 7 innings and then go take the biggest at-bat of the season so far and put it over the right field wall, that's what I'll do. And everybody's bought in like that. It's amazing.
That's such a unique approach, man. It makes me, I have a hard time pulling myself away from college football on Saturday, right? But I guess I got to watch with a split screen and just keep my eye on this game. But this to me is what baseball is all about, is these moments, a 2-2 tied series going into game 5. It's for all the marbles. The loser goes home, winner moves on. Elimination playoff baseball is unbelievable. And
on Saturday, game 5, you're going to see what I think, because I'm kind of biased, but also what the voters think is the best pitcher in 2024 in Tarek Skubal. He is amazing. He has won the AL pitching triple crown. He led the American League in wins, ERA, and strikeouts. He is an absolute phenom. He's electric. He's emotional. He's loud. He screams. And he is going to get the rest worked out. He pitched game 2. He threw 7 scoreless innings and struck out 9 guys, I believe. And the rest worked out that he will be getting the ball on Saturday for game 5.
So if the Tigers make it to a World Series, it's kind of like the New York Giants team that beat Tom Brady and the Patriots, a wild card team at the bottom, working their way all the way to the top through a playoff appearance.
Sneaking in. And the matchups work out. I mean, so the Tigers, the winner of this ALDS series is going to get the Yankees. I would probably, if I had to bet money, I would bet against the Tigers against the Yankees, just because the Yankees are stacked. They have a ton of talent. They took care of the Royals after losing game one. They beat them in 3 straight, I believe. So I'd probably take Detroit. That said, Aaron Judge is slumping hard right now, as he tends to in the postseason. It's again, the weird bullpen could make life hard for someone like Aaron Boone, who's not known as like the best manager ever for the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tigers play in such a way, again, it's contact hitting, it's singles, it's good defense.
Well,
They play in a way that can tear a bullpen apart over a 7-game series.
let's not get ahead of ourselves. They got to beat the Guardians first.
They do.
The matchup makes sense, but tell me about the Guardians. What makes them the team they are? Why should I pay attention to them? What's interesting about them?
There's not a ton of star power on the Guardians either. I mean, it kind of stops and starts with Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez is an amazing player. Jose Ramirez almost had a 40-40-40 season this year. Home runs, stolen bases, and doubles. Jose Ramirez is a tremendous player. He is the biggest star that Cleveland's had in a long time. He's 32. He plays middle infield. He is their guy. He hasn't had the most tremendous series. He did hit a solo home run today. But man, he's one of those guys that, like, if you watch a lot of baseball, you follow baseball, he's someone that everybody knows about. He's a 6-time All-Star. He's won 4 Silver Sluggers at third base. But he doesn't play in a huge market, and he, again, English, is not his first language. He's not someone that people know about, but he's a tremendous player, and he is kind of the straw that stirs the drink for the Guardians. Their left fielder, Stephen Kwan, missed a significant portion of this season with injury. He's fantastic. He won a national championship for the Oregon State Beavers. He is a defensively incredible left fielder who made one of the best catches you'll ever see earlier this series. He went 3 for 5 today. Great contact hitter, amazing bat control, very fast. They have kind of a funny, not funny, but it's an interesting quirk. They've got brothers on the team. Josh and Bo Naylor play first base and catcher. Josh is older. He's what you think of. He's like an 80s style baseball player. He's kind of heavy set, swings the bat like crazy. He's looking to hit the ball 500 feet every time. So you got brothers in the infield.
See, that's a storyline, right? That really got my attention. You got brothers in Cleveland playing for the Guardians. That's something like, that's unique. That's
Josh and Bo Naylor. They have the best bullpen in baseball, and for all the positive kind of sun pumping I've given to the Tigers bullpen, which is amazing, more in their utilization than in just like their raw ability. Although they have a lot of that too. The Guardians just have dudes up and down the bullpen, scary guys that can eat up innings, that are going to strike you out, they're going to make it hard on you, and that's led by who I mentioned earlier, Emmanuel Clase. He's been the best closer in baseball this year. He's probably going to finish second or third in AL Cy Young voting as a closer. He gave up 5 runs all season.
Wow.
He has a sub 0.7 ERA, I believe. Again, 5 runs earned, and that's what's crazy is Kerry Carpenter off the bench, second at bat of the game. Clase gave up 5 home runs all season, 5 runs, 2 home runs, 5 runs all season. Carpenter put 3 on him in one swing in the playoffs.
Wow,
it's amazing. So a lot going on for Cleveland too, and it's an AL Central matchup, divisional matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's playing a team you've played a lot and are very familiar with. How about the Padres? I look at the Padres. Fernando Tatis is on a hot streak right now in the postseason. Batting 500 in the postseason, 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, over 500, almost 600 on base percentage.
And not making any friends when he goes and plays the Dodgers.
I love that, dude. Manny Machado is hateable. Fernando Tatis is hateable, which I actually love that about them. I think that from a fan sitting at home without a stake in this fight, I don't care about the Padres. I don't care about the Dodgers. I want entertainment. I love Chippy. I love personality. Both Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado have that.
So there's personality by the bucket in San Diego. I mean...
I love it, dude. I love Bryce Harper too. He's not involved in this, but I love big personalities. I think baseball needs that. They are the exact opposite, basically, actually, of what Shohei Ohtani is in the Dodgers uniform, right? These are guys that are loud, they're boisterous, they showboat, They're what baseball needs, in my opinion. I can't wait to watch them in this game tomorrow night. Besides Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis, if there is anything worth noteworthy, what else should I know about this about this San Diego Padres team?
So they're Luis Arias. He's their first baseman. He locked up this season, I believe, his fourth NL batting crown. He hit 314 this year. He's interesting because he's like another, very famous contact hitting Padre and Tony Gwynn. This is like this is almost like a successor in some way. Arias has played for 3 teams in his career somehow as this level of contact hitting ability. He's now played for, this is on his 3rd team now, and he's only 27.
Mm.
Unlike Shohei Ohtani, who hit 309 and hit 50 plus home runs and batted in like 120 runs or something, Arias hit 314, only hit 4 home runs this year. So he's just like he's going to get on base a ton. He's going to get a lot of singles, a lot of base hits. That's your game, and it's a playoff translatable game. That's what I've been saying about the Tigers, right? This is the kind of guy you need to keep innings going, to push bullpen pitchers deeper, to start 2-out rallies. This is the kind of thing that's important. So Arias is a fun watch. Their left fielder, Jurickson Profar, who people in a friendly way refer to as Jurickson Throwfar because the dude's got an absolute cannon. Great left fielder. He keeps a lot of runs off the board for them. And then, as you said, it's Tatis and Machado as kind of the personality of the team, and they're obviously amazing players too. I mean, Manny at third base is one of the best defensive third basemen in the last couple of decades, I would say.
Yeah.
Talent up and down. It's a fun team.
Yeah.
It's a good team. It's a really, really good team. And they kind of know who they are. They've got an identity. A lot of these guys have been here for a little while. It's fun. They're a good team.
Here's what we should do. I think. Let me know if you like this idea. Before the World Series happens, you and I should sit down and talk about it. Talk about what to expect. Kind of do, for lack of a better term, kind of a preview of the World Series. Hopefully we get New York against New York, but whatever the matchup ends up being, you're going to really, I think, succinctly break it down and help people understand why it's interesting. We can preview. I think we just do a special recording, 20 minutes, whatever it is, previewing the World Series. And then we do a follow-up. We have you come back on for another 20-minute segment after the World Series. I'm going to watch it. This is a time of year. I've been watching from the stands all year, and I'm like, I'm gonna swing in, get on the freeway too, and watch this World Series. I love getting involved this time of year in baseball. Let's do a preview of the World Series, and then let's talk about after the World Series the outcome. I think that'd be really fun. It'd be good content. It'd also just be a fun for me. Like I watch stuff and I like to talk about it with someone I care about. That's you, and that would be awesome. So if you want to do that, I think that'd be really.
I would love to do that. No, baseball's in such a good spot right now as far as like the things that are happening that can draw people, right? Yeah. This is the thing that you mentioned earlier. People don't care about baseball. It's such a regionalized sport. You watch baseball and it's on all the, the RSNs, and it doesn't get a lot of ESPN run. You get Sunday Night Baseball and Apple TV's doing their thing, but by and large, it's just not in the public consciousness. So I like that there's a lot of stuff happening. As much as I, as someone who cares about the sport, would think it'd be really cool to have like a Guardians. I mean, I wouldn't like that because Tigers, but that aside, like a Guardians Mets World Series, I think is really interesting. It isn't the draw that I think baseball could use right now.
Yeah.
But you look at who's left, and there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of really fun, engaging, interesting storylines that could propel, hopefully, maybe wishful thinking on my part, that could try to bring baseball back. Like I wish that it was getting the coverage that like frankly, the steroid era was a good thing for baseball. It just was. The steroids saved baseball. I wrote a college essay on this. Baseball was not in a good way headed into McGuire, Sosa, Bonds, and you ask your dad or ask an older sports fan in your life, hey, what was the home run? We were young. We were just coming out of diapers almost when that was happening. Not quite, but close enough. And so we weren't there for that in the same way. But ask an older sports fan, what McGuire, Sosa was like. And they'll tell you. I mean, they're cutting out of games to show other games. If they played each other, God forbid, that would be, that was, front page news. Every time they would hit a home run, a graphic would come up and they would be, leapfrogging each other. That was it was such an important thing for the sport. And I wish that more things happened to that level of that level of seriousness almost that like prompted more conversation. Again, probably wishful thinking. We'll see, but
Yeah.
Hopefully there's some storylines this year that can do that.
Yeah, I think our job will be to highlight the things that make this worth paying attention to, and then talk about what's interesting and just shedding light on what makes these matchups special when the time comes. I think that's what baseball needs is people who can kind of cut through the fat and say this is the couple things you should pay attention to. Here's why this is interesting, because there is good entertainment to be found right now in baseball if you know where to look. And
Absolutely.
I just want to encourage that because I love playoff baseball. Austin, anything else we should talk about before you go? I think this has actually been a perfect amount of time. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
I can't say thank you enough, but before we go, I always try to ask and leave no stone unturned. Anything I'm forgetting we should talk about? And the answer can be no. That's an acceptable answer.
That's where I think first I'm really trying to, let's think about this. Let's chew on this. I don't think so. I think that, I personally, from like my own kind of selfish point of view, I think I got a nice kind of yin and yang here. I got to get happy about my Tigers and Shohei Ohtani, and I got to really get upset about Dallas. And I think, we're nothing without balance. So
I know what's missing from this conversation. I'm looking at it on my screen. We got another co-host, Nathan Hawthorne, who's on the show a lot. You and Nathan are going to be in the same building on Saturday, I believe, in Eugene. Am I wrong about this? Are you going to be there when number 2 Ohio State plays at number 3 Oregon? You're going to be there, right? I think.
It's a sore spot.
Oh, I won't be there. I'm watching from home from the comfort of my couch.
Sore spot, Zach. We are taking a trip, and I by no means, if somehow someone hears this, like we are taking a trip that we should be taking for my wife's lovely mother's birthday to California. We are very excited to be going and celebrating her birthday with her. I mean this all. I know I'm saying this like Riley. Like I mean all this. Like you've met her mom. Like she's great.
Yeah.
She's a great person, and we're very happy to get the chance to go celebrate her birthday with her. That said, Oregon Ohio State's at 4:30 p.m. Tigers' first pitch is at 5:08 p.m. and we're going to dinner at 5 p.m. And then
you're going to be the guy on the phone, like.
And then we're going to go see a movie after. We rented out an entire theater for all of our family.
What movie could you possibly watch?
Beetlejuice 2.
Dude, that sucks. So, like, I'll say it.
So here's the thing. So
compared to Oregon, Ohio State, and that baseball game, that's pain.
So here's the thing.
Sorry.
Like, so dinner is at 5. The games will both be going by then, in the early stages.
Yeah.
I don't think we're supposed to be at the theater until 7:30. I think that by the time we get to the theater, one game will be either wrapped or very close to it, and the other will be. Hopefully, Tigers are up like 8-0, and I can like calmly just kind of check ESPN every now and again and hope that nothing crazy happened. It's tough, man.
Let me ask.
Man.
I know you got season tickets to the Ducks.
I do.
You had to have made a pretty penny off selling that ticket, right?
Nope. Took a bath on him, actually. Really sore spot for me right now.
What? You made?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
For a trip to California.
I'm okay talking about money on the show. Like, how much do you think I sold my tickets for net? How much cash in my pocket do you think I sold those tickets for?
You had 2, right?
2.
$1,400.
$427.
How is that possible?
Net, like take home. I will collect in 1 week because Ticketmaster. Thanks. I will collect in 1 week just north of $420 US for Oregon, Ohio State.
That's not awful, but I really thought.
No, it's awful.
I thought that was gonna I thought that game might pay for your season tickets. Like
it was supposed to. That was the idea because I knew. And that's the thing is like before, it's like I knew obviously
you waited. Like what the hell?
I was checking. I've been monitoring prices all season, and it never. I was thinking, okay, it's kind of going down. Oregon started the year rough, so I'm thinking, okay, once they look better, it's going to rebound, more interest.
Yeah,
and it never rebounded.
It's actually they're 5-0, and Ohio State's number 2 in the country. Oregon's number 3, but like Oregon should not be number 3. I think I think
Oregon's felt like has fallen upwards all season.
if Oregon looks better to start the year and there's any hope they can beat Ohio State, you probably get more money for that ticket. But
See, I think there is hope, and I'm brazenly biased, but like
bro, come on.
who's Ohio State played? Ohio State's schedule's worse than Oregon's. They've looked better.
You're
but
not
like
wrong, but I just think Quinshon Judkins probably the best.
The talent's amazing.
Like
the talent's amazing.
I think they blow Oregon out of the water by 3 touchdowns.
Oh wow. Okay.
I hope I'm wrong. Look, as a guy who wants a great football game, I want to be wrong, but I just have that much confidence. It's less about Oregon and more about what I believe in Ohio State.
Ohio State's biggest flaw is their offensive line, and Oregon's probably strongest point of the defense has been the defensive line. I think they're going to make life really hard.
Sure.
On that front, Ohio State's talent's without question. It just is. Like they're a great group of guys. They have not played a whole lot of formidable opponents, and so I've been checking this, been keeping track. The line's gone down a 1.5 since it opened.
Huh.
What do you think the spread is? Do you know what the spread is?
Can I be honest? I don't even know what that means. A point. Like I am so out of the gambling world. I don't.
How much? If
Ohio State -3, does that mean they're supposed to win by 3?
It means that if you bet on Ohio State -3, if they win by 2 or less, you lose. You're going to take the score of the game. You're going to subtract 3 from Ohio State, who is now ahead.
Got it. So Ohio State wins by 3, you make it. If not, if Ohio State wins 28-27, you don't win the bet.
You lose. Yeah, you lose the bet.
Got it. They need to win by more than 3 or 3 or more.
So the betting theory is that a lot of people think, and this is like another tangent, but a lot of people think that sportsbooks try to even out bets on each side, and they adjust lines to make the money be as close to 50-50 on each side as they can so they can guarantee a profit. Used to be that way. It's not that way anymore because sportsbooks discovered that they're leaving money on the table doing that. So what they do now is because of all the information they have about everybody who gambles with them, they know who's good and who's not. They know that Jeff puts $500 on the primetime home game, home team every week, win, lose, or draw, and he's not really worth monitoring because he does this every week. But this guy, James, he only bets $100 a game, but man, he wins a lot. He seems to know things. He seems to be really good at this, and he might be worth paying attention to. So instead of the sportsbooks trying to split things 50-50, they say there's some people we pay attention to when they bet with us, there's some people we don't. Most people we don't. I don't care. 70%, according to DraftKings, which they also have they're not compelled at all to report accurate or comprehensive information as far as like how their bets are made. But according to this app, about 70% of bets are on Ohio State -3. Now, if that were the case, and you think, wow, there's a lot of money on Ohio State coming in, as the favorite at this line, we should probably raise this line up, to try to get more people on Oregon again to balance out. But again, they don't do that. So despite the fact that Ohio State has this huge spread, this huge amount, the huge spread in terms of bet percentage, a lot of bettors on Ohio State spread, it's gone down. Why is that? Why has Oregon gained a 1.5 back on the spread despite the fact that all this action is on Ohio State? It's because, my theory, it's because the good people, the sharps, the good gamblers, they're on Oregon. And the sports books are adjusting their lines accordingly because the people that are worth paying attention to, that win money, that are good at this, they're betting a different way than the public is. And the line is being set accordingly. And the fact that Oregon's dropped a 1.5 in the spread, a 1.5 has come back to Oregon in 5 days with this much of the betting percentage being on Ohio State indicates to me that Oregon might not win this game. There's a good chance they won't. But a lot of people are staying at that Oregon +3, the football number, right? It's 3. It's a field goal. A lot of people to me, it would suggest that a lot of smart people like Oregon +3. And if you like Oregon +3, then you like Oregon to win the game, frankly.
So Vegas thinks Oregon has got a shot. Oregon makes Vegas nervous.
It's an and or. Vegas either thinks that Oregon has a shot, or Vegas thinks that people who know what they're doing thinks Oregon has a shot.
So is Vegas making a line they think they can win? Is that how that works? Obviously.
Yeah, they're making their line with the best information they have, and they're adjusting it accordingly.
Because I would think, man, to me, it's a lot. It should be like I'm looking at Boise State as a 20.5 point favorite over Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're in a similar situation with this game, and maybe I'm just dead wrong. Like, it sounds like Vegas just doesn't agree. They think it's gonna be a close game. It's kind of
They
how
do.
I interpret that
Mm-hmm.
spread.
They do. I mean, they do. If they thought otherwise, the line would have started bigger, and it probably wouldn't have moved down the way that it did. I mean, but
So
yeah.
how do you win money betting on this game? Do you win money betting on Oregon, or like the guy who bets Ohio State to win and Ohio State wins big? You make marginal money, right? Very little return on that investment, correct?
So if you're betting on a spread, the idea of a spread is to get it as close to 50, not in terms of bets, but like I think Ohio State is 3 points better than Oregon. So I want my spread to reflect the closest to reality that I think will happen. So if I set a line at Ohio State -2 and the game ends 31-28, I set a great line because I set it perfectly. Because that's the intention for Vegas. Those odds are, you can't ever bet long odds on a spread. You're going to get like -110, which most of the time, which is $110 to make $100 is how you read -110. You have to bet $110 to make $100 in profit. And that's typically what you're going to find for a spread. It's anywhere from like -105 to like -120. You might be seeing money line odds, which is just win. That's not spread based. That's just who wins the game. That's the money line. Oregon
you can nearly double your money though if your bet wins if you're doing the spread.
Yes, you can. Or
that's more return than I would have thought. Actually,
it's less return if you bet on Ohio State to win straight up, which is money line, which is like about -155, which is still pretty close to doubling your money.
So then 155 to win 100.
Yes. Whereas if you bet Oregon, because they're plus odds, that's like underdog. It's the inverse.
I have never gambled in my life, and I just didn't realize the amount of money you could win was so high. I just don't get why Vegas does, like, how much they must win, but it's like I don't
They keep building casinos, man. They keep building them.
I just can't. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I really. So, like, let's talk. Ole Miss is a 3.5 point favorite over LSU.
Mm-hmm.
So they think it's going to be more than a field goal game that Ole Miss is going to win by.
And that's a key number, obviously. Football people know a field goal. A lot of games end by 3. So that's the key number there, 3.5. Are you someone as a bettor? Are you willing to risk that this doesn't end with a field goal?
See, I think Ole Miss LSU is a really close game, and I think Oregon State or Oregon against Ohio State's a bigger margin. I find Vegas to be wrong. It's fascinating to me. I'm like, man, I think Ole Miss LSU comes down to the final play, and I think Oregon's done in the third quarter.
A lot of successful sports bettors do what's called steam chasing, and steam chasing isn't necessarily knowing the ins and outs of every team you're betting. It's paying attention to how the lines move, which is kind of what I was referencing with this Oregon-Ohio State thing. It's dropped a 1.5. So if you said, gun to your head, make a bet on the spread for Oregon-Ohio State, completely independently of how these teams play and who I think they are, I think the line movement indicates that taking Oregon is the smart bet on the spread because your odds are the same. It's going to be -110 whether you take Ohio State -3 or Oregon +3. So if you're getting the same payout, the odds are the same, and you got to pick Oregon getting 3 or Ohio State giving up 3. Based on what we've seen with the line movement so far, I'm taking Oregon. I just am.
So yeah, if you gamble Oregon +3 and they lose 28-27, you win your money.
Yeah. Yep.
Huh. I would be a terrible sports gambler because I don't think that Oregon's a 3-point game away from beating Ohio State. I can't. I might be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong. I don't see a world where that happens. Can we talk one more thing about Ohio State?
Yeah,
I think it's really fascinating. I've been trying to figure out a way to talk about this, but Ohio State had the opportunity to have Cameron Ward be their quarterback.
So did Oregon, some would say. But yeah, go ahead.
They didn't want to cough up the money to make that happen. If Ohio State does not win a national title this year and Cameron Ward wins the Heisman or remains the best quarterback in college football, which he is right now by a mile, it's going to be shameful. Like, you mean you're telling me a couple more million to Cameron Ward wasn't worth a national title to you is how that's going to read to me? It's like, well, you really looked at Cameron Ward and weren't willing to pay him what it required to get him there to win you a national title. You wanted Will Howard, the cheaper option. You're telling me that was a better plan? I think that's really weird. Now, from Ohio State's perspective, they missed out big on Cameron Ward. They were cheap. They didn't want to pay the money. That's crazy to me. I've said all along, though, Cameron Ward not going to Ohio State was a missed opportunity for him. He wasn't willing to take less money to play with better talent around him and win. However, the way things have worked out now, I actually think that's totally wrong. Cameron Ward took a bigger payment to go to Miami. Great place to live, tax-free, whatever you want. But I also think in a weird way, Cameron Ward's been better set up to play in the NFL because if you play at Ohio State as a quarterback, the narrative is, well, you had Quinshon Judkins, you had this great receiver, you had all this help around you at Ohio State, and the NFL views you poorly if you play with great talent. That's not a possible narrative in Miami with Cameron Ward right now. He's elevating people. He's winning games they shouldn't win. He's getting these crazy fourth quarter comebacks. I actually think Cameron Ward's elevated his NFL standing by playing at Miami more than if he'd played at Ohio State. And he got the bigger payout by playing there too. It's worked out great for Cameron Ward. I think Ohio State looks cheap and small. And if they don't win a national title with the roster they have this year, and knowing they willingly chose to not pursue Cameron Ward at the price he wanted, that's a huge mistake on them. I just think that's a
that I agree with.
All the way. It's
Can I push back on the NFL thing a little bit?
Please.
CJ Stroud went second overall, playing with Marvin Harrison Jr. and all this amazing talent they had. Justin Fields went 11th, playing with Chris Olave and company. Like, both those guys went very, very high, and obviously one has had more success than the other in their young careers. Yeah. But I would say, I mean, in just the two most recently drafted guys, the NFL doesn't seem to be like shying away from the Ohio State quarterback.
Well, and Miami's had one quarterback drafted in like 25 years, and it's Brad Kaya. You've never heard of him.
Exactly.
No, but I do think though the one benefit to Cameron Ward going to Miami against Ohio State is no one can criticize him saying, "Well, he had all this great talent around him." No one can say like, "Oh, he had a ton of, he had like 5 NFL players on his offense." Like you can't say that about Cameron Ward. And you
can say that about Michael Penix. You can say that about Michael Penix, and he went real high. And I'm bearish on Penix. Not to we're derailing again. I am not someone who thinks that Penix is going to have the career that many think he does, because I think for those exact reasons, but didn't scare the Falcons away.
Yeah. No, I just think the way that the 6-0 Miami Hurricanes have gotten there with 2 crazy fourth quarter comebacks in a row recently, I just think Cameron Ward's really setting himself up to be the number 1 pick. I think he's the best quarterback in college football. He should be. I think Ohio State really missed out, and Cameron Ward seems to still be the number 1 pick without Ohio State, and that's interesting to me. It's like, is he a better quarterback? Is he more prepared for the NFL? I'm not really sure. I don't know.
I was prepared so early. So in the offseason, I was actually prepared for Oregon to take on Cam Ward. It seemed like Cam Ward to Oregon was something that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen, and we ended up with Dylan Gabriel instead. And at the time, I actually was even happier with that. I didn't think Gabriel was an option for Oregon, and I loved the Dylan Gabriel acquisition for Oregon. Since then, I think Cam Ward's a little more wild than Dylan Gabriel is, for better or for worse.
Dude, I have been on the Cameron Ward train for years.
You're also a big-time Wazoo guy.
Well, you can go back to me. I watched him play like every game, and I'm like, this guy is converting 3rd and 19s. Like, he's Patrick Mahomes, and just no one's paying attention to it. I'm like, how is this possible? And I don't know how Ohio State watched Cameron Ward's Washington State film and didn't say, pay whatever it's worth. I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how anyone looks at what he's done and doesn't realize what the talent he has.
It hasn't happened yet. And, there's a lot of people that would argue this Miami team should be 4-2, given the fact that one of their wins, the ACC literally said shouldn't have happened.
Sure.
But they are 6-0. And a lot of people, myself included, thought, man, Mario Cristobal and Cam Ward, these are like 2 wild cards who are also kind of like water and oil. Like, it just...
Where does a wild card... Where does that come from? Why do you feel that way about Cameron Ward? Like, can I tell you, and I've talked about Nathan about this too, like, he's played so well within structure. I know he's known for like extending plays and making stuff outside of structure, but like, he has made really great plays inside that offense, making audibles on line of scrimmage, beating blitzes, recognizing man-to-man coverage, beating zone coverage when it's there. They play man coverage. No one accounts for him. He runs for a 24-yard touchdown.
I mean, Wazoo didn't have, they weren't like loaded with talent, but like, a few too many picks at Wazoo, I think. Yeah. I think that's a fair criticism.
But man, I got to say this. Like, when he was at Washington State, he did what I've only really ever seen Patrick Mahomes do, which is like, when it's 3rd and 19, he's converting it. When it's 4th and 20, he's throwing a touchdown. Like, unthinkable odds he would overcome all the time, like where you're way behind the sticks. And the only quarterback I can think of that routinely does that is Patrick Mahomes. And I know that's a weird, I'm not trying to compare them, but it's like
For sure.
when you see Cameron Ward, he had a touchdown on like third and forever the other day in their comeback. They were 3rd and 20 on the 25-yard line. Within the structure of the offense, he makes a right read and throws for a 23-yard strike to set him up 1st and goal on 3rd and 20. Like, he is never too far behind the sticks or too far behind any situation where he can't overcome it. There's not very many human beings on the planet that play quarterback who can do that. I just think he's special. And it's weird that like the rest of the football world doesn't seem to like embrace that. I'm like, what do I see that like I feel the same way about Mike McDaniel. Like, what do I see in this person? Like, it seems like no one else can recognize. And I want to be very clear, by the way, not a Washington State fan. I pay attention to them because I went there, but like I really for real couldn't give less of a fuck about Washington State. I hated my time there. I'm not a fan of them. I'm not a homer. I'm like there's something on my radar uniquely, but like I'm not a fan of Cameron Ward because he went there. If anything, it's almost a knock. Like, I remember when I was there and Gardner Minshew went there and everyone's like, we're going to beat Alabama. And I'm like, you're batshit crazy. Washington State's never going to beat Alabama. They have no shot. I'm not a homer. I just think I see this kid who's like insanely talented and just getting completely overlooked. And it's very weird to me.
Is he getting overlooked anymore? I mean, I don't know the Heisman odds, but I'm sure he's way up there.
No, he should be. He's the best quarterback in college football. Even Nathan, the other co-host recently, we had this debate and he's like, well, he's not the best quarterback in college football. He's the best playmaker. I'm like, he leads the nation in passing. He's 6-0 in passing and in touchdowns. Like, who is a better quarterback in college football than Cameron Ward? Nobody, dude. Nobody.
Probably not to this point. No, I mean, and it's not even to knock on Cameron Ward because he is a great player. For everything I've said, I actually think he's an incredible player, and I would have liked him at Oregon, considering especially what we have now. It's not like the most amazing quarterback scene in college football right now. So, I mean, he is the best in the country, and I wouldn't, yes, but like there isn't that guy that's like, there's like Quinn Ewers and stuff, but there's not like a ton of like, whoa, this guy's going to be a star. There's no guy like that. There's no group of guys like that, really.
Well, there is. His name's Cameron Ward. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's true.
It's weird to me, like, everyone talks about how bad the quarterback class is. It's Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, and Cameron Ward, and Cameron Ward's by far the best one.
I love that you left Shedeur Sanders off that list. I genuinely love that.
I don't get why he's regarded highly.
It has to be like ESPN shilling, right? Like, that's the reason he gets on all these like number one on all these boards. Like, it has to be.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't get it.
Watched a ton of Shedeur Sanders. He's not good.
Aside from like his ability on the field, I also think he's completely toxic as a leader and a quarterback.
Agreed.
Like, that's not the guy I want giving millions of dollars.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In the NFL, like, no way. I'm not drafting Shedeur Sanders, giving him a ton of money. I would not feel comfortable doing that. I just don't. I don't think he's responsible enough. I don't think he's a good enough leader. He walks away from games before they're over. He's doing the showboating and losing. I just don't. I can't. I could never draft Shedeur Sanders and feel comfortable with that move, in spite of the fact that he's not a terrible quarterback. He's fine. I just don't. I couldn't do it. I don't have the balls to draft a guy like that and give him millions of dollars. I just don't. I'm good.
You should watch more Tennessee. I love
Nico, dude. That's the other quarterback who is a future number one pick. Like, that's the one that like, oh, this kid's next.
I love Nico. I love what Heupel's done, like, with this crazy like wide receiver split. It's very like Art Briles, Baylor, RG3. They're such a fun offense. It's such a fun team.
Nico Yamaleava is the
yes,
incredible sophomore quarterback at Tennessee who is going to be at some point the number one pick in the NFL. It's just the truth. I mean, he's looking to play. You're like, that kid's a little different. He's a little bit. You can see it now. It's really obvious. It's very clear. I should make a list at some point, maybe in January, of like the quarterbacks on the NFL's radar in college football. Some of them are going to leave now, but there's like 10 quarterbacks right now. They're like, these are the guys that the NFL's evaluating right now that are going to be viewed as first round picks at some point.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I think he's electric. I think the Tennessee's so fun to watch. They things have not gone as well for them the last week or so, but they're people call it a gimmicky offense, maybe, but
they're gonna smack Florida this weekend though. Like,
I love that. I love like watching. I love watching their games and seeing them line up and counting quickly like their offensive formation and wondering to myself why there's only 10 balls in the field. And then I realized that, the 11th one's hiding behind the score bug because he's on the opposite sideline and they run and their splits are 52 yards wide. And there's so much green grass and it's so easy to run. It's just it's so fun.
Well, let's say this. They're going to destroy Florida. They're 14 and a half point favorites against Florida, which is a wild spread. Then in 2 weeks, on the 19th, Alabama on Saturday plays Tennessee. And right now, Alabama's number 7, Tennessee's number 8. I don't know how that's going to change between now and then, but I think Alabama wins that game. But Jalen Milroe against Nico Iamaleava is a really fun quarterback matchup that I cannot wait to watch.
Agreed. This Saturday is great too. For as much of it as I won't see, a lot of good games this Saturday too. We got the Red River Shootout, which I don't think you're allowed to call it that anymore, but whatever.
I don't care. Red River Rivalry, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Red River game, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Why is this how it is now? The All-State Red River Rivalry, as it is on this website here. It's like, are you serious? We got
to brand because everything has to be branded. Yeah.
God dang it, dude. Cal Pittsburgh's a good game, actually.
Love Pitt this year.
Yeah. Ohio State, Oregon, obviously. Ole Miss to LSU is huge. Both win-loss teams. Both, I think, have a shot at the college football playoff, in my opinion. And then Penn State USC is interesting still. Even though USC is unranked, it's a good game worth watching. I think USC's got a shot to win that game. I love their quarterback over Penn State a lot. I think Penn State's quarterback, Drew Allar's a problem, and not in a good way. Not like he's a problem. Like, no, he's actually a problem. You should probably solve it.
I love that. I love that he was a problem posts. I love going through Twitter, and it's usually basketball players because it's like more, it's better for highlights.
Yeah.
But it's like a not great starting caliber player on like a bad team in 2003, and it's like Nate Robinson was a problem or something.
But he actually was like a problem. Let's end here with this. It's a good way to end our conversation. What's your prediction for Ohio State, Oregon? You're a fan. You're a huge Oregon fan. What happens in this game?
What happens is hard because Oregon has been such a Jekyll and Hyde team. I can tell you that what it will require for Oregon to win, which is kind of the lens that I look at this thing through because I'm biased and this is like one of my greatest cares in the world is Oregon football. You got to start fast. You have to start fast. That sounds like it's like everybody has to start fast, but it's like you actually have to because Oregon's offense has had a tendency to sputter a little bit. Ohio State is in all likelihood going to score a lot of points. You can't get behind. Red zone efficiency has been a bit of a problem for Oregon this year, and they're also in the red in turnover margin, which is not a thing that Oregon teams usually are. Dylan Gabriel threw 2 picks inside the 10-yard line last week. Didn't end up mattering a ton because the game, it didn't end up mattering, but in this game it will. You got to button the red zone up. This is something I've noticed, and I don't know how much Oregon you've watched. Oregon's defensive coordinator, Tosh Lupoy, who's a fantastic recruiter and is generally a good defensive mind, I think. This is probably the most talented Oregon defensive front in a long time. A lot of just really, really great players. There's some future NFLers. This is a group that I think you have to be okay with trusting to get pressure with 4. I've noticed it since Tosh has taken over as the DC at Oregon. He schemes blitzes in an interesting and I think ineffective way. We saw this in both Washington games last year with Michael Penix, who is a guy that I think is like I said, a little bit overrated coming into the NFL, but what he's really good at is pre-snap read. He's really good at diagnosing blitzes and pressuring where it's going to come from, getting rid of the ball in a hurry.
Yeah.
So when I see Tosh Lupoy repeatedly send 5-6 guys, which is guys that you cannot have in coverage now, on a blitz to a guy who already has seen it and is going to have the ball out of his hand long before you have any chance of getting there. All you're doing is hamstringing your secondary. This is a consistent problem I've had with Tosh, where I think that he sends blitzes in times that are not where it's not going to get there. You're not going to get there in time. I think that if Oregon beats Ohio State, it will be because they're willing to only send 4 to 5 guys in anything that's not 3rd and long. And the Oregon front 4 will get home enough to make life hard for Will Howard.
Yeah.
For Will Howard, and you're probably going to get a big game out of Judkins because everyone gets a big game from Judkins. But I
Also,
think
I mean, like, I think of the Boise State game and how well they ran the football against Oregon, and go,
Genty had 200 yards and 2 scores, I think.
I think it's a similar game.
Yeah, I could see that too. I think that if Judkins is touching the ball a lot and even is pretty efficient, as long as I think you're limiting the home runs both from him and from the Ohio State passing attack, I think you've got a real shot because I think Oregon's offense can be efficient. And as long as they're cashing in the red zone and they're doing that efficiently and they're not letting those opportunities go, you're probably going to have to hit like a really important 4th and short, which Oregon has had a hard time doing in big games the last couple of years. That's going to have to happen almost certainly. And there's a lot that Oregon has to do to win this game. I think it's all things they can do. The offensive line's had trouble this year. That's going to have to hold up. And I'm really curious to see how this game gets called on the defensive end from Lupoy. I'm curious. It'll be fun and stressful.
Do you think Oregon wins in your heart?
I probably like 55-45 Ohio State. Like in terms of percentage.
Wow.
Like
okay.
Like I would give the slight lean.
Not points though. You mean like you think
yes,
Ohio
like
State
percent,
wins?
like 55% of me thinks Ohio State wins. Yeah. There isn't the only result that would surprise me is frankly like an Oregon blowout. Like that would surprise me. Like if Oregon like wins by 2 or more touchdowns, that would surprise me. If Ohio State wins by 2 or more touchdowns, I would say it's probably because the game was close for a while and then it got away at the end. Oregon tried to grip in a little bit too hard. I think it's a close game.
They're 5-0. They beat, so they struggled against Idaho, which is shocking. They barely beat Boise State. It was a great game though. As a fan watching, I loved it.
And that has turned into like a quality win for Oregon. I mean, Boise State's like a top 20 team.
Yeah. They smashed Oregon State. They beat UCLA 34-13. Michigan State game was honestly, like, I know they won 31-10. It was the ugliest 31-10 victory I've ever seen. It felt like, again, the 2 interceptions in the 10-yard line. They're an ugly 5-0, man. They really are.
It's a very, I mean, it was 31-10. Now, granted, Michigan State's touchdown came with like the entire Oregon bench and it came very late.
Yeah.
But they also fumbled on the 1 yard line. So like that's probably a touchdown in most situations. So you could still say it's probably still 31-10, even if you want to, say, well, hey, this was garbage time, whatever.
Yeah.
They probably should have scored early. Now, Oregon's not going to throw 2 touchdowns on the goal line very often, or maybe so. Not going to throw 2 interceptions on the goal line very often, which obviously you have to button up.
I think before the Michigan State game, you could argue, well, like, look, they were not great against Idaho. It was a slow game. Idaho's pretty good, by the way, like a really good football team in the FCS.
As far as an FCS team goes, yeah, they are good.
Boise State's pretty good. So they started slow. They played some really good teams that turned out to be pretty good in hindsight. With 2020 hindsight, you look back and you're like, pretty good teams. But also, like, you can explain it away because they started slow. They won those games though. They've gotten better as weeks have gone on. But then the Michigan State game happened, and you got your quarterback throwing 2 interceptions in the red zone, and you're like, I thought we were past this, and it's rearing its ugly head again. And you're like,
the stuff that plagued them more against the Idaho teams was really, 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 really poor offensive line play. And that has been mostly buttoned up because they were starting a walk-on center for the first two weeks of the season.
Yeah.
They've made some adjustments to the offensive line, and the O-line play has been better of late. And that's, I think, what really plagued the offense early on was just Dylan Gabriel. He's listed at 6 feet tall, and there's no way he is. I think he genuinely has a hard time seeing over the line. And when there's pressure, it gets even worse.
Let's be clear, though. I want to be very clear about this.
Yeah.
No one sees over the line. Peyton Manning was 6'4". His offensive linemen were 6'8", right? Like, you see between offensive linemen. The hardest thing about being 5'11", which he probably is not seeing, actually. It's because any quarterback seeing windows between linemen. That's just how quarterback works. It's actually getting the ball out, up and over people where you got big dudes that are 6'5" tipping the ball. It's more, the height issue is more the arm angle is getting the ball out around and over defenders. I don't think seeing is the issue for a guy that's 5'11".
That's fair. I mean, so Oregon did a lot with Bo Nix. There was a lot of designed rollout, a lot of like clear the trees, so to say, hit passes to guys who are on the move, a lot of crossers. This is the Will Stein offense. And this year, for whatever reason, I think we've seen less of that. And I would actually like to see an opportunity to get, and Gabriel's not the athlete Bo Nix is. Bo Nix is a better runner with the ball. He's a more fleet of foot for sure. But I would like to see an offense in which Gabriel is getting more designed rollout. There's a lot of throwing to guys who are standing still, like at the sticks, and it's like catch the ball, then make a play.
Yeah.
I would like to see more of like hitting guys in stride and letting your athletes make a play. Evan Stewart's one of the best receivers in the country, and he's gotten almost no run this year. Tez Johnson, now he's had a much better season. He's also a great player. Ton of athletes that catch balls for Oregon who I feel like aren't getting the chance to shine because of the way this offense is being called. And I think it starts with being able to get Gabriel out in space and kind of giving him, like I said, clearing the trees, so to say, whether it's arms or seeing around, through around linemen, whatever, just getting him some clean air and getting easy completions, I think is imperative for him. We'll see.
Yeah. Let's end here, man. Thank you for your time. I want to end recording so we can catch up on a personal level and talk about stuff you don't want to say publicly.
Yeah, man.
Dude, thank you for your time, Austin. I love you. I appreciate you guys. Everyone out there, thanks for listening. Have a great day. And
Go Tigers.
We are done.